T-minus 30 seconds. T-minus 20 seconds. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
Trap Talk Reptile Network, the coolest reptile network in the world, episode 522. Back at it again, another All in the Tree Tuesday. Robert Worrell, the legendary Robert Worrell, tapping in with us tonight. What's good? I'm your boy MJ. If you're into keeping reptiles, green tree pythons, emerald tree boas, arboreal species, this is definitely the Tuesday night you want to be subscribed to. So much to learn, but listen, hit that like button and hit that subscribe button if you're into those things. Really means a lot to me. And if you hit that notification bell, select all, you'll be reminded of every podcast being dropped here on Tuesday nights, Wednesday nights, Thursday nights, Friday nights, Saturday nights, Sunday nights, and Monday nights, 7 days a week. That's why it's the coolest reptile network in the world. You feel me? Wherever you listen to this network, thank you so much. All right. All the audio platforms, Buzzsprout, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you listen. Thank you so much. It means a lot. Appreciate all the feedback. Drop a comment too, man. Let me know what you're liking best at each episode. I really take those those comments to heart, and so I appreciate all the feedback and interaction and people, the live chats with some of the early birds. I'll get to you guys in a minute. I do got to say, if you're looking for exclusive content, if you want to support what I have going on further than just watching, then just come join the Trap Talk Patreon family. Do that by clicking the very first link in description below. Pretty sure it's the first link, but where it says join Trap Talk Patreon family, click that link, and as soon as you join the Patreon family, you get a link to a Discord, taps you with awesome people in the reptile community who have nothing but longevity behind their name. And there's an awesome Instagram group chat. Just a good way to connect, man. There's so many parties to get invited to throughout the year. It's just a good community and a good family to be a part of, man. So Patreon members, you guys in my heart, love all you guys. Who's here though, man? Who's ready to rock and roll? I gotta say, shout out to the early birds. Early birds really get me running. You feel me? Like my boy Shane from Above All Scales, my dog, Trap Talk Patreon member. So much. Thank you so much for being here. My homie Big Mike, South Florida's finest, 1776 Exotics, Trap Talk Patreon member all day, every day. Lupe, the homie Lupe, Rookie of the Year in the Chondro world. He hasn't officially gotten that award yet. I don't see who's taking him out this year for that award. I really don't. But shout out to the homie Lupe, Trap Talk Patreon member. Please go give a follow right now. If you want to see some next level chondros, go follow this guy right now. Space City Chondros. Really nice guy. Super fucking chill. And shout out to homie Lupe, man. Shout out to PJ Creations, homie Eric, Trap Talk Patreon member all day, every day. The homegirl Krista holding it down here every Sunday. The host of Girls Who Love Reptiles podcast. Neurophi Exotics. Go tap in with her, please. Trap Talk Patreon member all day, every day. Northwest Herpetological, the homie Zach. Trap Talk Patreon member. OG homie in the building. Appreciate you. Woodstock, what is good? Thanks for tapping in. The mayor saying hi to everyone as he does. The homie Nick, Reptile Pueblo in the building. Trap Talk Patreon member all day, every day. The homie Tony. What's good, Tony? Hey, Tony, what'd you guys raise at the U.S. ARC auction at Anaheim? Do you happen to know that number? I was looking for that number last night and didn't see you in the chats. Probably because of the ball python episode, but it's all good. Drop that number. Let me know what we got U.S. ARC number wise at the Anaheim U.S. ARC auction. Thanks for being here. Orange County Chondros, the homie Rob, Trap Talk Patreon member all day, every day. JD, what's good? Jaffe, Canada's finest, right here in the building. My homie Jaffe. Thanks for being here, Jaffe. Dan from Red Earth Reptiles from Australia. What is good? The Down Under. Our father, Eddie Blue in the building. What is up? Thanks for being here, Father Blue. Appreciate you so much. Chris in the building. What is up? Simon in the building. What is up? And we're going to end it in style because it's the right-hand man of the Bears, Alex Warren. What's up, Alex? Go give this guy a follow. Amazing Arboreals on Instagram. He's quite the guy. And then also don't forget, click that third link in the description below and support U.S. ARC, please. U.S. ARC numbers must go up. Legislations never know when it's knocking on your door. But please, we got to keep our animal rights. Shout out to Phil Goss. Shout out to anyone out there who supports U.S. ARC. Shout out to U.S. ARC Florida. And please join today. Really means a lot if you do that. Shout out to tonight's sponsor, Mark Hager from Texas Chondros. One of the best doing it out of Texas or in the damn chondro world at all, period. This guy's made a name for himself. One of the best doing it. One of the nicest. And you definitely want to start off with the right breeder. This is your guy right here. Mark Hager from Texas Chondros. Head over to Texas Chondros on IG. Okay, go look at all the amazing work, all the amazing other chondro breeders he puts on out of the state of Texas. All right, and go to his website, see what he has available, texaschondros.com, or hit him up personally on IG. Let him know the trap sent you. He'll take care of you. Shout out to Mark Hager, it's my dog. Shout out to David Brahms, the Reptile Perch, #1 PVC design purchase for your arboreal snakes. What you see behind me in my focus cube habitats are perches designed by the Reptile Perch. So if you head over to reptileperch.com, you can place your order for so many different style of PVC made purchase. So thank you so much, David Brahms. You can also click that availability tab on his website and see what he has available. I'm sure he's going to have something out of the 5+ clutches he had this year. I'm pretty sure it was 5. But shout out to David Brahms. Appreciate your support. And yeah, go check him out. He's the man, dude. David Brahms is the man. Been on the show a couple times. And that's a fact. Speaking of the man, Gary Shavino, one of the best doing it on YouTube. If he puts out more vlogs, that'd be great. But either way, for now, he is the man. Go on IG. Go give him a follow. GS Reptiles on Instagram. Head over to his YouTube. All right. Really, he makes learning fun for sure. All right. He doesn't have, I'm just saying, he's different from any other reptile YouTube creator out there. So go subscribe to his YouTube channel. You'll see what I mean. And also, if you are getting that itch to get into another arboreal species or aren't even in the arboreal game yet, go check out Gary Shavino. He's going to show you so many different cool things to keep out there. And yeah, he's one of the best doing it. Been doing it for a long time. So appreciate my guy, man. Last but not least, shout out to the homie Blake from Blake Exotic Feeders out of South Florida, the best in the quail feeder game. Homegrown quail, no third party, none of this crap. Nope. This guy breeds and grows his own quail and ships it straight to your doorstep. All right. And I don't care what reptile you have, I guarantee it will benefit off some quail. That's a fact. All right. I keep many different species of reptiles and they all eat quail. So thank you so much, Blake, for keeping my diet diverse for all my reptiles. All right. And that's Blake Exotic Feeders on IG. Hit him a message. Let him know I sent you. He'll take extra good care of you. And here they are, the mayor of Chondro Town and fucking Marshall Mendez. What is good, fellas?
What's up?
Happy Tuesday, boys.
Happy
How's
Tuesday.
it going?
Going. How are you?
I'm great.
Bill, how you
Pumped for this show tonight.
Yeah, I know. I mean, go ahead, Bill.
It's too damn hot here. I want to go back to Scotland.
What's the temperatures in Texas right now?
102 today, and we're cruising higher than that the rest of the week. High of 105 on Saturday. So,
woo!
Just getting started. And people want to know why I won't ship. Why won't you ship my chondro?
Because it could die right when you drop it off.
Dude, it died in the car on the way to the FedEx.
Getting gas.
Yeah.
Damn, yeah, that's no joke, Bill. In September, I mean, I know I've been at your place multiple time of the year in September, but it's I don't know. I feel like it's been warm, but September it kind of cools down by that time, right?
Depends. You know, we're going to be early September. I think relatively early. So it can be all over the place. It's not going to be cold. I'll tell you that. It's either going to be. It can still be pretty damn hot early September.
I forgot it's more towards mid or end September is when we normally have the shindig and whatnot.
I think I can't remember the exact date, but I think it's earlier September this year.
Yeah, it is like the 8th or 7th or something.
Yeah, I think that's right.
Or even earlier. I think it's earlier than that. I think it's like the 4th or 5th. Hold on, let me see. Because I know that week I have my knee surgery. And that's so all right. So it's the 6th. So I will fly in the 4th of September.
Okay.
And the party is the 6th of September.
It can still be pretty warm. Yeah, Pat's saying 90s are pretty typical. So I'll have some fans out and we'll be all good.
What's up with you, Marshall? How's the weather? And I know it's been pretty muggy and whatnot up in Alabama, right?
Oh yeah, it's been hot as fuck. Rainy. It's rained for I don't know, 2 weeks straight, and then it stopped today, and it's back to 98 degrees again.
98?
So it's been, yeah.
Whoa, that's not normal, is it? It's normally lower 90s, right?
Has been this year. It's either been hot or rainy. The rain cooled it off, but and it's always hot. But I mean, not like this year. Last couple years have just been brutal. It just started way earlier, lasted longer, gotten hotter.
You got the Indonesian temps, man. You got to put the tree monitors outside. Love it. I'm serious.
Yeah, you could.
And what's a San Diego temperature out there?
Oh man, it's brutal. It's like fucking. It was 83 today.
73.
83 felt like a hot 86. You know what I mean? But it's creeping. I think we had a couple 90s last week, and I think it's just like Bill said, it's just starting for us. And we've had here in San Diego, we've had summers go all the way through January. Like we've had legit hot ass 80, 90 degree days in like December to beginning January. So I think it all depends. Their late summers happen, and fuck, I hope not. I really hope not. I don't like the heat. I don't do too good in the heat. But I'd rather not be cold. So it's weird. I don't know.
I'll take the heat over the cold.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Probably Marshall too.
All right, check it out.
Yeah. Also.
All right, check it out. Legendary Robert Worrell. All right, what do you know about it, Marshall? I want to ask you because you go back further than me and Bill when it comes to chondros, and I know you know this name. I only know this name because me coming in 2017, I felt like he had a strong presence, posting and talking about stuff. So I know he goes back. I want to know what you have to say on tonight's guests and whatnot.
Yeah, man, he's an OG for sure. He's one of the first people that I met physically in person. Not as a reptile show, maybe like 98 in Pennsylvania somewhere.
Okay.
Yeah, I think he was vending and forget what he had on his table. I mean, chondros. I think he had like Argentine boas and.
Oh, nice.
Not sure what else, but yeah, man, he's produced a bunch of stuff. He's got some pretty famous bloodlines that are still floating around out there, and yeah, I mean, like I said, I'm looking forward. I hadn't talked to him in a while, so I'm looking forward to hearing what he's up to now. Is he still keeping? And kind of talk a little bit about how he learned to breed these things back in the day.
Yeah. What you got to say on tonight's guest, Bill?
Not much. I just kind of have to echo what Marshall said. I've never met Rob. I've never had a conversation with Rob. Obviously, I know who he is. He was very active on the MVF when I was just getting into chondros, more than a decade now. But I wasn't much of a poster then, more of a lurker. So obviously know who he is, know he's, one of the foundations of the beginnings of chondros. And so I'm like Marshall, haven't heard much from him in the last really 10 years, since I've become more active. So really looking forward to, seeing what he's been up to and get his perspective on kind of what's going on these days.
Yeah. And it's interesting because like I was mentioning before we went live, like I saw his name quite a bit when I was joining groups on Facebook, and then I just stopped seeing his name for a while. Like I was like, whatever happened to that Robert Worrell guy? And I remember a few years went by, and then all of a sudden I started seeing popping back up again. And then he was on the Chondro Bar Room, and I was a little upset because I was trying to get his ass on my show first, but it's all good. I love Kino and fucking Trav, and that was a great episode. And then I realized, okay, this guy's definitely down to speak it how it is, and I can't respect anyone more enough who says it how it is. I mean, that's my cup of tea. So I'm looking forward to tonight. I'll tell you that much. And also, these OGs got stories. You know what I mean? Yeah. Guys like this, I go way back. We're finna hear some stories tonight. You know what I mean?
Let's do it.
All right. Well, let's do it. It's game time. You guys know what to do in the comments, man. Let's get the scenes cracking. It is that time. Do what you got to do to get your mind right. Do what you got to do to stay hydrated, because it is episode 522. The legendary Robert Worrell coming at you right now. Let's go. Cheers.
Good.
You ready for do more in the future? Trap Talk podcasts?
Yes.
Man.
Only Trap Talk. Exclusive.
Yes.
Exclusive. Oh.
So stop calling us.
Rub the spot, get the club to pop. When I come up with the crowd, God love it or not. I'm hot from the hop to the rub the spot, get the club to pop. When I come up with the rub the spot, get the club to pop. When I come up with the rub the spot, get the club to pop. When I come up with the rub the spot, get the club to pop. When I come up with everybody, we do it. Everybody, we do it. Do it. Do it.
And we're live, episode 522. Robert Worrell in the house. What's up, Robert?
Not too much. How you guys doing?
What's up, Rob?
Robert.
Nice to have you.
Hey, Marshall.
How's it
Bill.
going, man?
Pretty good. Pretty good. Yo, I wonder where I went. Didn't you guys know I had a stroke?
I knew. Yeah. I've ended up finding that out.
I knew as well. I knew as well.
Yeah, I had a serious stroke in 2020, so
Wow.
it's sort of been a long ways back here to just get to this point. So
Well, glad to
Yeah.
have you.
that sort of sidetracked me. So that's what I was doing. I wouldn't recommend it to anybody, but like
I'll pass on a stroke.
Most of the rest of us just got COVID. I mean, you had to take the extra leap, huh?
Yeah,
well, that's the thing. I woke up. It was like a Walking Dead episode. I wake up and everybody's wearing masks. I mean, it was sort of bare in there, because they were sort of short-staffed with everything else that was going on in other buildings. But
wow.
I mean, it was just bizarre. I didn't know what the hell was going on, for 2 weeks. Well, they had me intubated for 10 days.
Jeez.
And then, so I don't remember any of that. They induced a coma.
Wow.
And then it wasn't until, that like last day of March. And then it was that for 10 days, then another like 3 months in the hospital, then get out, then therapy, all that stuff. So yeah, it's been a long ways back.
How much time did you spend recovering at the hospital?
They had me in the hospital for like 2 weeks, and then I went to a rehab facility to sort of relearn to like walk and everything and speech and all that stuff.
Right.
And that was like 3 months.
Wow.
So,
Dude.
$1 million. $1 million.
Fuck, dude.
I would not recommend. Not a way to spend $1 million.
Well,
Not fun at
All
all.
that to say, man, it looks like you're doing pretty well. I wasn't sure, I don't think I would have been able to tell if I didn't know.
yeah.
So you sound just like I remember. So
Good. I like to think. The only thing is the brain. The brain is what really got hit with me. I didn't get a little bit of paralysis on the left side, but it's the brain that really got hit. So it took me a long time. That's why I said before, like, I just wasn't ready
Right.
to do this when I got your original invite. So I'm thinking like 3 people, I won't be able to keep up. But I made so much progress since I was not getting better until because they tell you, you got 1 year, and I don't want to dwell on this too long to press the hell out of everybody here.
No worries.
But they give you 1 year after a stroke, and they say what you get back, that's sort of where you're at. That's where you're going to be.
Right.
And August of 2023, all of a sudden, I just started coming out of it, and nobody has any explanation why. It doesn't make sense, but I'm not arguing with it. But I mean, all I did was play video games, Call of Duty for 3 years.
Fuck yeah.
So,
You got pretty good.
I was just to get back my reflexes, sort of, and my I'm going to say occupational therapist suggested. She's like, "You have any video games?" I'm like, "Yeah, I know I have something." And she's like, "Well, start playing on that." And I couldn't get the thing hooked up. Like that's how bad I was. Like I couldn't figure out what I was doing. So finally did that, and then once I got it working, that's what I did for 3 years.
Fuck, man. What?
Play video games. So.
Well, quite the chapter. Let's kind of take things back, though, because it's kind of awesome to hear that you and Marshall met so far back. But he makes it sound like you go even further back than he does. So what year did this all start for you, as far as the passion of keeping reptiles, and then obviously getting deep into the chondros and whatnot?
Yikes! I mean, date wise, it's going to be tough. I mean, I started with a ball python as my first python. Before that, I had king snakes, garter snakes, things like that. Saw a live birth on 2 of them.
Nice.
Got a lot of babies, crazy amount of babies of those things. Didn't know. I thought they were male. Didn't even know they were female. But I got the ball when I was like 12. And Marshall, did you go to that first Chondro Fest?
Yeah.
What was his name again?
Buddy gets.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, the Chondro Fest down there. I took that ball python along because I needed room, and that one fellow that was a keeper, I can't remember his name. He was a keeper at the zoo. He ended up moving to Florida, but he took her because she was a big girl, and I wanted to see her bred. He wanted to breed her because she was like, at one point I had her, she was 10 pounds, but she was a little over 8 when he took her. Because I'm like, what's the point of really feeding her up? You know, it's not like I'm getting ready to breed her. But yeah, so I mean, it started with that stuff. And then really, because of her, I wanted to get a bigger cage for her. Something. I had her in a 29-gallon aquarium. I wanted to get something bigger. Found out about the Hamburg show. And I went and saw all these different species, like emerald tree boas, which I thought were my favorite because it was incorrectly labeled in a book. And I see green tree pythons in person. I'm like, whoa, that's what it was. But I wasn't really considering keeping them at that point. It was still just getting a cage. And so ended up putting her in a 75-gallon aquarium. And then wasn't long after I got Dumeral boas, rainbow boas.
Do you have Argentines too? I think that's what I remember you had on your table.
Yeah, the Argentines was the only thing that I kept that I bred. The jungles, the blood pythons, the Dumeral boas. In fact, the rainbow boas, 3 out of 4 were, well, 3 were female, 1 was male. The 3 females were gravid. And half of those were Phil's, half were mine. I had the 2 girls. I thought it was male and female, but they were missexed. And ended up selling those gravid. The guy got, what the hell did he get out of that? He had like 40 babies because I'm like, I'm not taking these back. I need the room for baby chondros. I've already figured this out, how I'm doing this. I'm not taking these things home. It feels like, oh, I'm not taking them either. So they just ended up getting sold to a guy for $600. And he made out because, I mean, rainbow boas were kind of expensive at that. Well, I don't know, a couple $100 a piece or something. But yeah, that was because it came down to just room for chondros, like because they went so quick and they started producing so quick, and I needed the space, and it's like, okay, everything's got to go. So I mean, everything went, and it was like green trees were. That was it. Like I was hooked.
And you don't know exactly what year the green trees started coming into the mix?
That would have been 95.
Yeah, I was gonna say it had to be mid 90s sometime because I met you in like 99 maybe. Pottstown show. You're vending with Mark LeShock, and I'm pretty sure you had baby chondros on the table. He had baby basins on the table. Plus, I don't know what else. Y'all had a bunch of shit on the table.
Baby basins? Fuck. 99.
Yeah. That was LeShock with the basins. Yeah, I saw you at a couple of those. Well, there was Hamburg and there was Pottstown.
Pottstown's the one I'm thinking of. I went to both, but yes, I remember we definitely hung out at both.
Okay, yeah.
So yeah, you already had chondros at that time, so mid 90s. That sounds probably about right.
Yeah.
What state are you in, Rob?
Pennsylvania.
You're in PA. Okay, cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right.
good
Wow.
state here for the most part.
So who was the guy, or who was the, like, where was the source to get information on how to keep the green tree pythons, let alone breeding them successfully? Like, how the hell did you figure all that out back then?
Well, that was the thing. There really wasn't anything at the time. And I sort of was under the impression that, because I had reached out to everybody. I bought the damn Argentine boas to really, I bought those from Les Shock for one reason, because I wanted a little yearling that I had sexed. And I knew I needed an excuse to meet up with them. So I bought the Argentine boas really just to get that animal sexed. Like that's how those came about. But they were a lot of fun, though. Don't get me wrong. I mean, they were a lot of fun. But yeah, there was nothing. I mean, there was no information at that time. There was nothing there. You know, the only thing I think that really existed on at that time was kingsnake.com, and that was just more of message board.
Where'd you get your first chondro or chondros, Rob?
I got a couple imports that were misrepresented and sort of taken advantage of because I didn't know any better. I just wanted to jump into it. And I mean, looking back, this is the thing that sort of scares me, is when people say, I want to see the animal in person. You know, I want to see the animal in person. It's like, when I think back to how sort of naive I was at that time, seeing them in person is the worst thing you can do a lot of times. Like, you're not thinking clearly once you see the animal. And I mean, if I would show you guys pictures of these things, you would just cringe. I mean, because they were in such bad shape. You know, like the one had a respiratory infection the next day, and a vet, I reached out to a vet. The vet came to the house. She treated it, but the thing ended up dying within a few days. Like that one, I don't even think made it a week. But yeah, it was.
Some things haven't changed then, it sounds like.
Yeah, it's. I mean, that's the thing. Like, I hate to think that I sort of participated in that, but I was told it was captive bred and born, and it was female, and then the thing winds up being male with no teeth from being force fed.
Wow.
And yeah, that thing. I remember my ex, because when the thing, you know, the bubble, like in the back of the head, I don't know I've never thought about what you would call that, but it's what I love about chondros.
You're talking about the meat on the head, like kind of looks like a butt.
Yeah.
Like the lobes, you know, the lobes.
Yeah, like the lobes. Like, I mean, emerald tree boas have them crazy. Like the females have them like, yeah. I know what you're saying.
So the bulbous part of the back of the head. Well, that, I tell you, we're looking at the snake. It's not looking good, and all of a sudden it went into like a seizure. And the bubbled part of the head, I'm laughing at my description, not what I'm about to tell you, looked like there was water fluid boiling in the head. It's the only way to describe it.
What? Oh my God.
So while it's seizing and doing this, you just see that. I mean, that's the only way to describe it is boiling. And then it just went limp. And she knew right away it was dead. I knew right away it was dead. She just started bawling her eyes out. She's not even a snake person, but what we just watched was probably the most horrific thing that you could see. I mean, I've lost a number over the years. I've never seen anything like that since. I mean, that was just crazy. But that guy ended up making good on it about 2 years later. And the thing is, because he told me this story about how he produces. I mean, he's not worried about the money, you know, blah, 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 the whole song and dance thing of, you know, I'm not in this for the money. I'm into this for the purity of my soul kind of thing. And I can't remember these Samboas that he bred, but I'm looking and I see these baby chondros at the show. And the next thing, I'm looking down, the next thing, somebody hands this green tree baby, sticks it in my face. And I look up and I'm like, oh crap, it's you. He's like, here's your baby. I told you I'd, make good on it. I'm like, oh, shit. Okay. I sort of wrote that off. Like I wasn't counting on that. Well, I want to say his name was Brian Sharp.
He's like, that's like Brian Sharp from like the sharp strain albino boas.
Yeah. He was doing the albino boas. And I think it was him. Now, I might be getting this wrong. But because of the boas, though, I think I'd have to be right. Because the guy he couldn't get any of the babies really eating. But, no, I'm sorry. That fella did. He had them eating. But what none of us found out from somebody that knew him later, is he was feeding them frogs. So
I think I heard that. I think I've heard that before. Somebody.
Brian got a dozen out of that, and for a pair of boas. 5 months later, that little thing dropped dead. It was doing great. It ate as a champion from the get-go, which made no sense because me and Leshak are both looking at it and like, I don't think that thing's ever eaten a meal. It looked like a newborn, but it wasn't, a newborn like 2 months out that hadn't eaten kind of deal. It just looked like maybe a month old, but whether or not it ate, we didn't know. But it ate from the get-go, and it ate pinkies. And when it died, I found out later that same week, all 12 of those died because the guy had started on frogs.
So bacteria, or like what killed him, you think?
That's the thing that, I've never really gotten the answers to that. It's not something I really looked into. I just know it was like a cheating technique that was used early on to, they would eat that. But the thing is, you'd have to treat them for parasites and stuff down the road. Well, okay, so say you start them on that. When they're 6 months old, they're around 50 grams, something like that. You're not going to really dose an animal at that size. Like, what do you do? So realistically, like, it just, I've seen that so many times where like they just drop dead like that.
So this guy was getting wild caught frogs from his yard or something, or where was he getting frogs from?
Hell no, he was getting them from a supplier because his ex-partner that told me about all that then said, where he was getting them, because I didn't even know honestly that you could get frogs small enough to feed the baby chondro. You look at something that's 8 grams, 10 grams, it's like, okay, how big could the frog be? But some species, like Indonesian species or something like that. I don't know. I don't know anything about frogs. I couldn't tell you. But one of the little ones. But that's the thing, though, that like I would see that in the early days with these guys would be like, oh, here's my baby eating lizards, and it's like, I just think you're not even smart enough to know that you're not supposed to do that, let alone you're telling the whole world what you're doing. Like, it's just sort of a facepalm kind of moment. But
are you against baby chondros eating lizards?
I would never do it. No. If you
better get with it. You better get with it these days.
I can't wait. I can't wait to cook after he's done talking.
Well, the thing is, that was one of the things early on that I did was when I started breeding and holding back, like the things that I would hold back for, I never cared about color. Color was never an issue to me. That wasn't something that I really ever thought about. Like I was just happy with, the nice bright greens and stuff. It never really. So
you weren't a designer guy, is what you're saying.
It was never a thought, like as far as something that I sort of aspired to keeping, or but there wasn't much out there in terms of the choices of that stuff really anyway. But
I remember kind of the hallmarks of your stuff being the size and the fertility of the girls and how many. I mean, I remember you had multiple clutches that were like huge, right? I mean, like by normal standards, like high 20s, 30s. Am I remembering that correctly?
Oh yeah, yeah. Yeah, I had
over 30. You hit over 30 eggs before, Rob?
I have 42.
That's right. I remember it was crazy.
Yeah, she did. Which honestly, that was baby doll blood. She was the mother to baby doll, which her name was Big Mama. I never thought I'd be repeating these names. Like it's just horrible that. Because I've had these conversations with guys overseas and everything where the English translation sometimes would throw them off. But yeah, Big Mama was really the origin of that line. But she was 20, at least over 20 when she did that. Because then the next time that I bred her, she ovulated both sides at the same time and tore the ovaries, and I didn't know it. I hadn't made the connection yet at that point that once they ovulate, then you expect eggs in 40 days. I hadn't figured all that out yet. So 5 months went by and I kept thinking, oh, we have a rainstorm coming up here. Maybe she'll lay for me tonight, you know? And that didn't work out. That didn't pan out. Because you can see in the ovulation photo that, I mean, this is a chondro. She was about, what the hell was she body weight wise? I don't know. She was between 2,500 to 3,000 grams. She was a big girl. So she looked like she ate a football when she ovulated. And it was one of those instances where both sides went together. You know, and I hadn't seen that. I don't think I've seen that happen since. So to say, can they do that and get through it? I don't know. But because usually, you know, they do one side, then they do the other side either the next day or up to 7 days later. That's why the whole counting thing, you know, if you see them ovulate, you miss the first one, you catch the second one, then it would throw off the dates. Because when I was trying to sort of present the timeline of 40 days, I'd have these guys come back and say, well, I had, you know, mine laid 33 days later or 38 days later. And it's like, okay, but you're going off the second ovulation. Well, what do you mean the second? Well, they ovulate 2 times. Generally, it's one after another. So it just seems continuous to everybody. You know, they do one side, then they do the other side. And there was a big, you wouldn't believe that. Like, it sort of amazes me that we can even talk about this now, because the wrath that I got for just bringing up that they visibly ovulate and that then you know when you to get eggs. I mean, the backlash on that was pretty brutal. I mean, that really kind of hurt my reputation for like a year.
Because they were saying, how can you prove that type of thing?
Well, how that one came about was somebody had asked, could you post a picture of a green tree python that you've cycled? And we all know that's an idiotic question. Like, okay, you've cooled the animal down, everything. That's not going to show anything different or anything. So I had posted a picture of one ovulating, and I just said, I don't know, whatever. And I said, the nice thing about this is you know then when you're going to get the eggs. Didn't think anything of it. I thought this was common knowledge. I didn't know. Like I said, everything that I figured out was just on my own, because there was nothing. There was nobody out there that had any answers to any of these questions that I had. But
no book.
Yeah, there wasn't anything out there. Although that's the thing, there was a book that actually did exist that explained that very well, which Richard Ross had written, which I just saw that he died recently.
Yeah, rest in peace, Richard Ross.
And that, unfortunately, the book that I had was a defective print. So everything that covered ovulation in there, which could have just shut that whole discussion down immediately, was reprinted twice. So like 40 or 50 pages in the book was reprinted twice. So I had the same thing. So I didn't even know that part existed in the book. So I ended up getting it. I found another copy later. I don't know why. Like, that's something that I think that's a book that every keeper should have, you know. But I mean, most of that stuff's pretty freely discussed now. I don't think there's anything more that you gain from it, but just the pictures of it and everything, and Rob, the way it's explained better.
Hey, Rob, correct me if I'm wrong, but python ovulation had been documented in many species before green tree ever came to the United States.
Oh yeah, that's the thing. Where he had well, I don't know if he had documented. I don't think there was a timeline documented in there, but he had documented the follicle development, then ovulation. And so, I mean, it was covered in the book. So it's like, here, this is in a goddamn book, which unfortunately I didn't know at that time. But yeah, it just, I don't know if I've never bred anything other than Argentines and Chondros. So I don't know if you have, like, in, say, jungles or whatever, ball pythons even. I don't know if there's a, you know, you can count on the days the same way. I don't see why you wouldn't, but
yeah, you can. It's very very similar, just like in ball pythons, just a few days longer. Every species has their, you know, their own countdown between ovulation and oviposition, but
yeah, I figured it would be something like that. So yeah, I mean, it was documented already in pythons in general. So I mean, yeah, it's safe to assume that any python's going to do that. It's just, unfortunately, I didn't have a copy of that to hold up and say, here, it's in print, you know. But
you got pushback on the forums for saying such.
Yeah, when I posted that picture and I closed it with, it was only like 3 sentences long. I posted the picture of it, and at that point I'd already figured out, okay, you know, when you're going to get the eggs. Which the nice thing about that is, to any of us, okay, do I have a vacation plan then? Because I'm not leaving, you know, like, I'm going to be here, or, you know, whatever. But the Maxwell jumped on it. I swear to God, I wasn't going to go there. He jumped on that and said, how, like, dare you try to convince these people of anything, you know, like that. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, how do you keep green trees and not know this? And it wasn't long after that I met Trooper, and Phil had taken me down there. And I said to Trooper, I'm like, look, can you back me up on this? I am getting shredded right now on the forums about this. And Trooper looks at me and he's like, we'll go down and you'll see why. But he's like, I have never seen a condor ovulate. I have no idea. And it's like, okay, well, this is no help. So, like I said,
I'm sorry, this is like late 90s, mid 90s. Remind me again what era this is.
This would have been
late 90s,
probably 98,
2000s. Yeah,
98, 99. I think it would have been.
I thought Trooper had been working with Chondros since like the 80s or 70s or something.
Yeah, he'd been working on them since the 70s.
And he told you in late 90s he's never seen an ovulation?
Yeah. That's the thing, where I sort of felt that, because I had reached out to all these guys. I had bought animals here and there in hopes of sort of getting information, and which most all that stuff backfired on me. You know, I ended up with a lot of screwed up bloodlines and stuff that I did mess around with for a while. And oh, that's a whole other story of headaches there. But yeah, I mean, he hadn't seen it. And I just sort of felt that, as far as, because I remember he had a big incubator next to his bed, one of those $6,000 deals. And I remember when he opened it, it smelled like egg death. And the way that's set up, you're never going to clean that out. There's so many, like, sort of screens and side vents and everything. 'Cause it's set up to, like, pump CO2 into it and all kinds of stuff, you know, that I remember looking at it, and when he said what he paid, I'm like, why don't you just use a cooler? You know, what are you doing? What, like $6,000 buys a lot of stuff, but you have to keep in mind, this is coming from somebody that, you know, I was broke at that point in time. I mean, I was dead broke because literally every dollar I could get my hands on went into more green tree pythons. Like I was just like a crack addict, you know. I mean, I was hooked on those things.
The first time I went to Eugene's house, he had a wall full of those. What were they, like we call it, like Forma Scientific incubators, I think is what they were. And they weigh like, they seriously weigh like 400 pounds a piece because of the heat sink that they've got in them. Yeah, they're like they're I mean they weigh legit 400 pounds. They're huge and heavy on purpose.
And you had a wall of them.
Yes, because everybody thought that was like you had to have an incubator with temps that could be held that precisely. That no normal incubator could work. That was the line of thinking.
Damn.
Yeah, I remember seeing that, and he also thought that they needed to work, so he kept them in an air-conditioned room. Like the idea behind it was, which I can understand in some degrees, but so cool the room off and make that thing work, which I don't know. I have a hard time wrapping my head around it, but yeah, it was just sort of weird to have it in an air-conditioned room.
Is that it right there, by the way?
That's it.
Yeah, that looks like one of them.
Oh my God, it's ugly as shit.
Those things were even set up.
It looks so 90s.
Yeah, it looks like it's a projector. Like back in elementary school, they used to put that fucking screen thing up, and you know what I mean.
Just look at the color, for God's sakes. Look at that green.
It had this like crazy ventilation, like circulation system, and Rob's right. It had all kinds of like crazy screens and vents inside it.
Like this. Yeah, there you go. Got the inside right there.
So you look like if you have something that dies in there. Okay, there's no way you're getting out the smell. And I just remember when he opened it up, the smell of egg death. But he had said the only time that he would do artificial was because they had such mixed results, was that if a female left the eggs, or if a female looked like she was going to die on the eggs, then they would take them in that instance. Or, like I said, if she left it, then they would do it because the results were so sporadic. You know, sometimes it worked, sometimes it wouldn't. But I think I figured out why a few years later was, I'm trying to think, there was a chondro that Phil Black owned, and it was in Maxwell's collection for like 6-7 years. And she was like 13 at the time, I remember. And we didn't know yet as far as how long green trees would, live, could be bred. Yeah, we didn't know the ages. We didn't know longevity. None of that stuff had really been answered yet.
Right.
Although I think to some degree, Eugene probably could have answered some of those questions a little bit better. Maybe not quite yet at that point. But I said to him, I'm like, you got to get it back. You know damn well if I get her here, I'll breed her. And she's just aging out over there. Like, what are you doing? So he gets her back. And I know because he was like best friends with him. So I know there was a little conflict there because me and him never really saw eye to eye on anything. And he knew that it was going to my place. Because then he's like, oh, I was going to throw the computer chondro on it or whatever. I'm like, dude, he had 6 years to do that. Like, why didn't he do that before? Like, just get the damn thing here. And he's like, all right, yeah, you're right. So it comes in. And I have eggs within 2 months, which I thought was really quick, And I said to Phil, swing by after work and we'll pull the eggs. Maybe you can help me out. Because at that point, I wasn't really comfortable with them, throwing anything. Like, I didn't want them throwing swings at me or anything and risking damaging the eggs because wasn't sure how, sort of sturdy they were or anything.
So this was like your first clutch or around your first?
No. But I just was still in that, like, just keep repeating what I've done and not risk, damaging anything kind of stuff.
Right.
And so I grab her and she doesn't care at all. Doesn't throw anything. I just pick her up, stick her aside. So Phil got to, at least be there. And we're looking, beautiful white eggs, right? And so I start candling them. And I get to like the third one. And I'm like, and he's like, what? I'm like, just give me a second here. And I go through about 6, 8 of them. I'm like, Phil, I'm not seeing an embryo in any of these eggs. Like there's nothing in these at all. I mean, I'm not even seeing the slightest bit of vein growth. Because I've seen crazy shit over the years hatch that made no sense as far as like the smallest amount. Like, when they ovulate 7 days apart kind of deal, it's like, okay, they're 7 days ahead. So you'll have half of them with like beautiful vein growth, and you'll have the other half where it's like there's barely anything in there. And then the weird thing is they all hatch the same damn day. That's always sort of screwed with me. When you'll see them, okay, they're 7 days apart, but they end up hatching all at the exact same time. Sort of always thought that was kind of weird. But I'm going through the eggs. I'm like, there's nothing in here. He's like, well, you're still going to stick them in the incubator? I'm like, yeah, I'll put them in the incubator, but there's nothing in these, And of course, it took like 3 days for the eggs to crash. That's when it dawned on me why all this shit that I got and everything else, because these bloodlines, because that was, pedigreed stuff, the yellow face. So you all know what bloodlines we're talking about. And that's why they would crash and burn, because when I had set Trooper up with an incubator, I took an incubator down, I don't know, like 6 months later after I met him. And because I was telling him how I did it, and I could tell that he didn't believe what I was saying. So when I got home, I sent him some pictures. Then all of a sudden he pays attention because he calls up. He like jumps to the damn phone at me. Like, holy shit, I didn't, think that was even possible. The reason that they never figured it out was because they were doing it probably correctly. It's just they weren't candling the eggs. So they didn't know that there was nothing in there. It was a dead egg to begin with. Because I said to him, like after I set him up and he does the first clutch and it crashes and burns. And he's I can tell he's blaming me. I can feel the attitude. And I'm like, did you candle them? No. Well, why not? Like, how have you not candled it? Like, you took the eggs. Why wouldn't you have candled them? I mean, this was even before we were talking about like embryo placement at that point. I mean, but still, like, how do you not know if there's anything in there? So, but when I saw that, that's when it clicked why it took so long for anybody to really figure out, because they were looking, I mean, those eggs, for all intents and purposes, you would say, yeah, those are absolutely fertile. I mean, they were perfect. They were all very, similar in size, perfectly shaped, perfectly white. And I've never seen that before. That was the first time I'd ever seen that. I'd seen that in other stuff from those lines. So, I mean, I know it sort of happens with them, but yeah, I knew the way that whole process, something was up with that though from the beginning, because she's laying, and all my other females at that point were like 2 months to go kind of deal, so it just went through. But it was the same deal though, where when they do slugs like that, where even though it's the same amount of mass coming out of them and everything else, there's no body weight loss because it's not taking any of the fat stores away. None of that fat reserve or anything is going into the eggs. It's just they're infertile slugs. And that's when you can sort of tell right when you take the eggs. You know, what I mean, you don't even need to candle them. You can sort of look and say, okay, something ain't right here because she still looks good.
Yeah.
You know, and but yeah, it's the genetics of some of these, the bloodlines. They're too far inbred.
I'm definitely like not an expert, especially with compared to anyone here on the screen, but I mean, if the egg looks good, I'm incubating the shit. I don't give a fuck. I don't, you know, regardless what candles or what shows, I'm still sticking in the incubator.
Oh yeah.
I've had some weird shit happen too, you know what I mean? But also like, I just don't, I know that a lot of things can happen once you leave them in the incubator. I mean, Bill, what do you like to candle, Bill? Is that something you do and like mark the embryo, or do you look at good eggs and just put them in the incubator?
I candle them initially, but I'm kind of like Rob. You pretty much know if you candle and there's no veins and there's no embryo, then I've never had one of those go on to develop a baby. I may separate them from eggs that have veins, put them in the incubator, but usually, you know, within the first week, the non-veined eggs are dead. But yeah, I give them a quick candle and then I put them in, and I don't ever recandle them, because at that point, you're not going to do anything to save them. They're either going to make it or they're not.
Right. I mean, just for your own knowledge of what's in that egg, right? After that, there's nothing you can really do about it.
There's nothing you can do. You put them in the incubator, give them the right conditions, and then it's out of your hands.
And, you know, I'm sure back then, even Rob, you would like to maybe put those eggs aside. Like if you had a clutch and you noticed some of those eggs had no embryos or no vein development, did you just put those off to the side and still incubate them, or what would you do?
I get the occasional slug where it was just obvious that, you know, it doesn't even have the proper shell on it kind of thing. And it's like, yeah, I just throw that away. But I've had them where they're very, very faint blood vessels that I could not clearly see an embryo, but it's like, okay, there's some veins in there. And those turned out to hatch exactly, you know, like I said, with the others that have surprised me a couple times. Because I've talked to people where they candle them, they're like, I don't see anything in there, but the egg looks good. And I'm like, do you see any veins at all? And I remember the last time, because it always sort of worked out, but then the last time I remember, which was years ago now, where the fella, they ended up, they crashed and burned. There just wasn't enough. There wasn't an embryo in there, but there was a little bit of veins. Because
no reason to trash them, right? I mean, what do you have to lose to stick them?
Yeah. It's the only thing that I worry about is like, because my original incubator I had built, and that was the thing when I realized sort of I was done. Maybe a year or two later, I think I thought about it. I'm like, I could have just bought a cooler. Like, what the hell was I doing? But the thing was, when I was asking anybody that I knew that had worked with pythons, and I think at that time was like Gary Braddock and Keith McPeak, and they both they work with like blood pythons and berms and balls and weird stuff like that. And the only answer I could get from anybody as far as like what brand of incubator buy was, well, I built mine. I'm like, oh shit, I guess I could just build one. So yeah, I ended up building one, and that sort of became my lucky incubator though. Like the way there were just some things that sort of worked about that, and some accidental cuts that I did that sort of like seemed to vent perfectly and everything. And I'm like, I kind of felt good about it. But that, I hatched a lot of chondros in that incubator. It's because I felt bad when I moved. I put it up on the web. I said, look, this thing, I think it's safe to say that this has hatched more chondros than any other incubator on the planet, because I've been using it from, so early and everything. And the couple people that wanted it were so far away. I'm like, I can't ship this. It ain't even worth shipping it, because I built it so big that I almost couldn't get it outside. I thought I was going to have to cut the damn thing up and get it out. Like, it almost didn't fit through the damn door. because I had built it in the basement and never considered, moving it. But it made it by like a half an inch, quarter of an inch clearance through the door. But I just felt bad about that thing going. But the coolers are perfectly fine. They're perfectly fine. But that was one of the things then I got upset about later, was then after I gave that incubator to Trooper, and it wasn't long after that he teamed up with that other fella, and they started selling those things for $800 with the little $8 LED screen that you could get from that PC parts. And it's like, really, dude? Like, I'm broke. Like, I could have gone in with you and done this, Like, what the hell are you pulling this guy in for? But that's sort of the theme, though, with me, is just getting reamed and screwed on this stuff. Like, it doesn't matter what it was exactly, whether it's helping somebody with something or whatever. It just was always an outcome for me that was just sort of like, what the hell is going on here? But yeah, $800 for an incubator. Oh, Jesus Christ. Oh my gosh. But yeah.
Just to provide a little bit of context here. So at the time, like, I was just getting into Chondros, right? And I'd been to Eugene's place, been talking to Eugene, been talking to Trooper, Maxwell. I met around the same time as Rob. And at the time, all the literature that I could find out there, Eugene and Trooper were hatching. They were using it was basically like a big plastic jar, or maybe it was glass, but whatever. You had to have the Forma scientific incubator, and they were using these egg boxes, and they would put like aquarium gravel in the bottom, soak it with, saturate it with water, then put sphagnum on top, then put the whole clutch in there, then close the lid. Then I talked to Rob, and he's like, "Oh, I'm using a cooler and I'm putting them in vermiculite." And I was like, "Oh shit, okay." And then I talked to, Dave and Tracy. They were kind of doing something similar. They didn't use a cooler, but they were hatching them in vermiculite. So,
well, that's the thing though with the Barkers. Though, you have to remember that the Barkers only did 2 clutches maternal, and then they gave away all their chondros. So yeah, it's a safe assumption to say that you can do it on that. I mean, why wouldn't you be able to do it on that? But they hadn't done it on that though at that point. That was the thing,
right?
Because they ended up, they're like, we can't deal with getting these little bastards started. We're just, going to focus on everything else. So all that their stuff went. But yeah, that whole period was that was a strange. Yeah, like yucks. I didn't want to relive those days, but yeah, I hadn't thought about some of that stuff in a while.
What's the biggest year you've ever had producing chondros, Rob? My room was really small. I had it worked up towards the end where I could keep like 30 adults. But any given time, like at one point I had 7 jade animals, or no, 8. I held back 8 jade females. I'm sorry, 7 females, 1 male. What's jade? What, can you remind me what that is? I'm not sure what that is.
That was the best bloodline that I've ever seen in my life by far. I mean, put it this: the first time I bred her, she came in at 1,500 grams. She was an imported female that sort of looked like, I think most people would classify her as a roux. But there was nothing about that female that would be like a roux. She was just a solid muscled animal. And I bred her, got her eggs. I think there was like 17, 18. Hatched the day those hatched. Okay, so I take the eggs from her. 50 days later, they hatch. She lost, I want to say, about a pound of weight. So say she lost 454 grams of weight. So she was a little over 1,000 grams after she laid. The day her babies hatched, she was already back to 1,500 grams. Because my whole thought was, I'll breed her again that year if I can get the weight back on her. So here it was then 7 months later, she's now 2,200 grams because she was a very poor feeder. That's why she was given up, because you would have to hold the rat to her mouth for like 10 minutes on tongs, and your hands would just start shaking because it's just, you know, she's just such a pain in the ass eater. She would take it every time, but you would just have to hold it while she just thought about it. She would just look at it. But after I bred her, you know, of course, that always fixes them. So she ate like a champ, pounded those things down. And that was sort of the first sign, like I had something special, when I saw that weight put on that quickly. But it was really a couple of years later when everything about that bloodline was, I mean, it was just the most impressive thing I've ever seen. That's why there's a lot of people for a lot of time that think the only animals I ever worked with was like Baby Doll and Jade, because they're the only ones I ever talked about. And it's just like, there was nothing else really worth talking about, you know, in as far as the things that excited me, you know, color-wise, stuff like that. Like I said, that just wasn't my focus, didn't care. You know, I mean, I let Shade go for $1,500, and she was that black female that ended up in Rico's collection. I didn't care about that, and it wasn't an impressive line to me. It was a very petite little line, you know, that just didn't excite me in any way. So there wasn't anything, you know, I mean, they ate good. I remember Shade in particular. I remember when I was time to, like, for her to go, and I'm holding her on my hand, and she just laid her chin down on my palm, and I'm like, this is just like the most mellow chondro. You know, maybe I should keep her. I'm like, I had bills of something that I'm like, you know, she's got to go. I'm not worried about this. I can always, you know, make more. But I think with that one, well, no, that was part of that breeder loan that I had done from Les Shock. And the deal at that time that I made was no pictures were allowed, because he didn't want anybody to know that I was doing this. Because I had said to him, like, look, this year's going to go and you're not going to breed anything, dude. Like, let me get some of this stuff, breed them, and we'll split the babies. And I brought in 10 animals, and I had borrowed a helix, or Phil had given me some helixes, and I didn't check it. It didn't dawn on me to check it. I just grown to trust those things and not think about it. But I realized too late that I never cooled any of the females. So at that time I was using like the steel shelves that you would put like in a garage.
Yeah, like
I had them built up so that I could do a 29-gallon on the top shelf and a 29-gallon on the bottom shelf. The bottom shelf would be about 2 inches from the floor. So that the females that were in that group, they got cool enough so that they bred. And because that year, I mean, if everything that would have went, I would have been screwed, because this was the big shift. So I don't have pictures of the parents, right? Didn't bother me because nobody cared about the parents. Well, this was the year. This would have been, oh Lord, I can tell you. Here, this would have been 2001. Okay, I would have said the wrong year. So 2001. All of a sudden, everything shifted. Everybody now wants pictures of the parents. And I'm like, because the issue before always was that nobody cared. It was just, are they captive bred and born? Are they eating? Are they eating well? That was the big criteria. And so with that shift like that, nobody really wanted them because I didn't have pictures of the parents. And I did actually take a picture of that female not thinking because she climbed under her nest box. Okay, because I heat from the floor. She climbed under her wooden nest box and laid the eggs. And I took a picture of that because that's when I usually would grab my camera. I didn't think to grab my camera for years. Like when everything goes right, you don't bother. But she laid them, and I snapped that picture, not thinking, but in hindsight, that I should have just taken pictures and said the hell with it, just for the documentation of it and everything. But what I didn't know, that's why Rico was sort of mad at me, because I didn't know that he had that animal. Because he's like, what's with this? Because like a couple of people that had him, it was just, I can't remember, Carrie Sauter, I think her name was, Chicago. She had gotten a couple from me, and one of them was those. And it was just like, she's like, well, what do I label this? Just label it like just label it breed alone. So she labeled it like super secret breeding loan or something like that, and made it
like on the lineage chart.
Just as as far as like where they came from, because that's the thing, I couldn't disclose Mark's name out of that. That was the deal at the time. And Rico like finally went off on me one day, and I didn't understand what the deal was. And it's like, oh, you got one. Like, why didn't you just ask me, dude? Because I'm like, that's all old news. Like he's out of the game. He doesn't care anymore. It doesn't even matter. Because Les Shot got out of Chondros and snakes like in 2008, I think it was. So he didn't even care. And I'm like, yeah, Shade was, I can't remember specifically anymore what the hell it was, but I figured it out close enough.
Hey, Rob,
to answer the question that he wanted.
Hey, Rob, do you remember my original question though about how many clutches you've had in a year? Like, I'm just looking for.
Yeah, the best would have been when I did that 40, because like I said, I always did like maybe I would do 3 or 4 at a time at the most, because
3 or 4 clutches.
Yeah, because I couldn't really handle more than that, and I ended up with like 120
babies.
Yeah, that year. That would have been, I don't know, 97.
Nice.
Something like that, 96, 97. No, probably like 97. Yeah. And because I had a couple, I got 42 from Big Mama. I got 30 from another girl, and then I don't remember what the other 2 did specifically, but that was before I was coding animals. I didn't start coding until December 7th in 98. And like I said, wish I would have thought of better names. Like, I really wish I would have come up with better damn names for these things. But it was all sort of cutesy stuff because, it was just me and my ex. That's the only people that would, really talk about it with at that time. Because I just withdrew from the snake world when I realized, like, I just thought these guys were withholding all this info and everything. They're not giving me any details. They're not helping anything. It's like, I'll just have to figure this out on my own. So I just sort of withdrew and just figured it all out. And then when I sort of reemerged, I just assumed everybody knew all this stuff. And then it was like, kind of found out the hard way, like, no, they don't. And that's just what led to a lot of conflict and everything. But I mean, at the end of the day, that's where everything came from.
Hey, Rob,
like it got out there. So,
hey, Rob, what was your success rate establishing neos?
Because I had the time, my first clutch, I remember spending 100 hours total to get them started. And it got to the point where, and that was, shit, no, that would have been Jasmine stuff. Yeah, I know. So that was Yeah, that would have been Jasmine. But yeah, so that wasn't a big clutch. I'm trying to think what the hell she did. It was like 23 or something like that, which is weird how many times that number's popped up. But yeah, so I was 100 hours into that. So what was say that question again one more time?
Just what's your general, success rate, or did you find most of them easy, most of them hard, all across the board?
Oh, okay. So what I started doing was I would only hold back for myself the animals that ate right off the bat. Like I would do initially, I would hold back the biggest, and I had a scale because I reload. So a scale that measures in grains. So I remember like Jasper, for example, like he got held back because he was 10.09 grams. And the next one in the clutch was like 9.89 or something like that. So the first to eat and the biggest got held back. Was my big thing for a while. And then it got to the point of, okay, all these that eat, you guys deserve a spot here. And I started realizing fairly quickly that all the ones that ate really well produced babies that ate really well. So my life got a whole lot easier really quick, because that's all I, like I said, that's sort of what I was breeding for, and sort of selectively breeding, not knowing what the hell I was really doing. It was, like I said, just keeping the biggest and the first to eat, and it just worked out really well that way. So that, and then, I mean, well, before I wander off on that, yeah, I mean, so life in general got really easy. There'd be occasion where I would, pluck a piece of like chick down for a stubborn feeder or something like that. But they got really easy quick. Like I would average, most of them would eat right off the bat, and then there'd always be, a couple or one that would sort of cause problems. And then as it went later, it got to the point of, all right, if you don't want to be here, then I'm just going to let you go. I would still offer, and I had one that was like, because, at 2 months, if they haven't eaten, you're done. You can't do anything at that point. You can't force feed them. You can't do anything else. They're pretty much too far gone to break down the meal. So even if you were to force feed it, they're going to die because it's just too much. They can't take it. And I just keep seeing everything popping up out of the corner of my eye now, and it's throwing, just like, is this drawing more questions?
No.
So what was I saying here now? This is one of the things, guys, I'm going to wander here because
You're good.
So where was I going now?
You're as far as the 2 months in, there's really no turning point at that point. No sense of assist feeding it or force feeding it.
Yeah. So occasionally I would have one late that would still take the meal, but I would just let them go then, which I know sounds sort of callous, but I wasn't never assist feed a baby, because the way I always looked at it, because I had already realized at that point that how they feed as babies is 100% genetic. Like you see that in the offspring 100%. Like if they're problem feeders, just let them die, which sounds horrible, but it wasn't. I mean, it would maybe be like one baby a year, out of 60, 80 that it's like, okay, you don't want to be here. You're not fit for what we're doing. This is captivity. Maybe in the wild it would be something that would flourish, but who cares? We're not keeping that. We're doing this all for captivity. So, I mean, yeah, I mean, that was one of the things very early on that I was glad that I did, that it turned out to work, because I just remember so many clutches that I had where I would have a whole clutch where every baby ate like they were an established yearling. And I mean, when you've been through the hell that I was with some of these problematic animals, and I had, because I did that with, and I bred the designer stuff. I bred every dumb condor I got my hands on. And some of them just, you know, they're just so problematic. I mean, oh, Lord. So it just makes life so much easier, you know, when you go through and it's like, you know, you got 25 babies and, you know, you're done in a matter of an hour. You know, you maybe tease feed, you know, for 5 minutes and then it takes it. But I remember having a clutch, that Blaze clutch. Every one of those, you would have thought that they were an established feeder. Everyone took it immediately. It was amazing. And that was that all Blaze clutch that I had that didn't into anything fancy color-wise, if I remember correctly.
I will tell you one thing. You are stirring some things in the chats because they're trying to figure out how it could be attached to the genetics when it comes to a problem feeder. Only because, I mean, I'm thinking about this too, just looking at the success that, you know, for instance, Marshall's had with clutches and Bill's had. I mean, you guys, Marshall and Bill, have had snakes that ate with no issues, but then also had clutch mates that ate like shit and either took a while or whatever. But what do you have to say to that, Bill or Marshall, about the genetic being attached to problem feeders?
Go ahead, Marshall.
I'll go first.
Oh my God.
No, I think there's probably there could be some truth there. You know, there's probably some truth to that. I think that, but yes, I have had situations where I've had, you know, there's been all-stars in the clutch that ate, you know, like powerhouse from day one. And there's also some that, you know, you feed them and you get a couple meals in them and then they turn on for you. I've also had some where the whole clutch is shit, you know, so everybody, you know, like that seems to be a common theme of all the people that we've had on, is that it just kind of runs the gamut of a whole clutch being great. Some people, you know, some clutches.
How many have you started, would you say, where you're breeding an animal that ate for you from the get-go? In other words, no tease feeding, just ate, boom.
I can't really
then
say,
you bred that.
My record keeping is not that good. Like, I mean, I know when they, you know, I could go back and look and say, okay, this one ate right off the bat, versus I assist fed this one 5 times. But, you know, I've never really, for me, it's always been more about the color and what they look like than you know, like what you're saying, the robustness of the snake. So it, you know, hard to say. I've never really tracked it, so I couldn't tell you. I can't say that I've bred the best feeder to the best feeder and all their babies were the best feeders. You know, it's just not data that I've really that I personally have tracked.
And I can kind of add to that a little bit, where I have also not tracked that exact data, but the bottom line is 90% of the animals that I've produced, whether they eat on their first meal, they need to be assist fed once or twice, they need a little chick down, 90+% of them, you know, 3 months out have all eaten, they're all doing great, they're all the same size. So it's, again, like Marshall says, the feeding has never been an issue, just because 90+% of them, I've considered all of them to be, you know, good feeders, whether it takes on its first meal or its 5th. I don't, you know, to me, it just has never been a real big issue. And I've kept enough of them around that I just can't come up with a female or a male that I have in my collection that has produced consistently just horrible feeding babies just across the board. I mean, it's just.
Why don't we talk about this though, guys? We're talking about problem feeders or problem users here, okay? And what I mean by that, Rob, I don't know if you ever heard us go on my rant about what I do with the problem baby chondro feeder. I give it a United States captive born and bred baby gecko, and it eats it in a flash. You know what I mean? That's why I asked you about lizards, you know, but
What do you think about that, Rob? What do you think about feeding a lizard that's captive bred? Maybe it doesn't have a wild parasite load.
I mean, that's something I'd never really thought about. Because like I said, I started doing this stuff. I eliminated the problem feeding very early on. I mean, that from the day one, like I said, the biggest and the first to eat earned a spot. And generally the biggest was a good feeder as well. Like if they were the biggest and a problem feeder, they didn't earn a spot to stay in my collection. So, I mean, I'm going back, you know, from the beginning for me as far as what I held back. But I can tell you, like Lucky, he's on 4th generation now with my bloodlines. He's pretty much has a sample of everything. And he has the same thing where he just doesn't, you know, he doesn't have any issues. So, I mean, I just sort of took that for granted years ago that it's absolutely genetic because we're not having any issues, you know, as far as getting them going. And it's not something I ever really thought about. I just always like, I mean, it just sort of makes sense. I mean, there's so many things about the animals where it's like, I don't want to get into some of the negative stuff, but
no, please do.
It's weird.
You're in a good place. You're good.
What people will say is genetic, and it's like, okay, the color is genetic. Everybody wants that part to be true,
right?
So it's absolutely the color is genetic. But then skin folds, for example, or poor feeders, or any of the other issues that you go with, that's not genetic. Why is it just the color is genetic? And then to what degree? That's a whole other sort of area to jump into as far as, you know, because I shifted to color, unfortunately, probably sooner than I should have, because it just got to the point where that's what you have to make what people want. And I started shifting that way. And unfortunately, like I only bred Jade 2 times. I bred her, let me see, just to bring, because I bred her in August 13th, 99. And then
what a year. 5/7
of 2000. So that's less than a year apart. Am I reading that right? Yeah. It's less than a year. It's, you know, 10 months apart, 9 months apart. And it got to the point where
which line was that?
That was Jade Blood.
Okay.
And that was the thing that kind of killed me, because she was just making green at that point.
Right.
And I realized, okay, I've got to I can't, because she had already thrown on her second litter 30. And it's like, okay, I can't deal with another, you know, potentially 30 to 40 on the third clutch, because now she's really fed properly. You know what I mean? So it's like, okay, I got to focus on this color stuff here and start doing that. And that was the big thing that I kind of regret, that I just never bred her again. She earned a place in the collection, in the room, but I never threw another male in with her. And I always regretted doing that, because I'll never in my lifetime see another animal like that. That thing was, and it's funny because a lot of people, when they hear the description of everything and the size and all this, oh, well, all Biaks are like that. I'm like, who the hell brought up Biak? What are you talking about? There was nothing that, I mean, you might throw a label on her of a Roo. I mean, she had the stubby little black tail, but there was nothing out about her that anybody would ever label Biak. There wasn't a hint of yellow to that snake. She was blue, her whole life. And
so Rob, these lines like Baby Doll and Jade, these aren't pure localities, just to confirm, right? These are cross line bred, is what you're saying, or where do these
Jade
lines come from?
Jade was an import that I do not have any idea where she came from. I mean,
so Jade was a locality type.
Yeah, she's a pure.
Yeah, just from where though, who knows? I mean, yeah, she was a locality, but you know, the labeling and everything back then was just so. I mean, that was the thing. Like at Hamburg, I would see these, and that's one of the reasons why I never paid any attention to it, because it's like,
Still is.
I remember this one guy that I was set up next to, and fellow walks up and he says he wanted an Aru, baby. And the guy's like, here you go. These are all Arus. Pick one. Next guy comes up, says, and this, you know, an hour later or something, I want to get a Biak. And he goes, here you go. These are all Biaks. Pick one. And it's just like, you know, the label stuff, I just, because of that kind of thing and seeing that stuff over and over again, and I could, oh my God, I could go into stories of the things that I've heard from some of the importers and stuff over the years and everything, and seen firsthand. Like, I just never really bought the whole locality thing. It just didn't. Like, okay, Aru Island, absolutely. Biak Island, absolutely. You know, like, yeah, you can break it down like that. But when you start getting into sort of different regions and stuff, it's like,
yeah, you're not
I mean,
wrong.
it kind of makes sense, because that was one of the issues where, again, where yeah, somebody wanted me to go on about inbreeding, and I thought I should bring that up. But it brings me to the thing of why I think this is a problem now with chondros and not with other species. My thought is, and I could be off on this, but like, you know, when the rains come through, all the terrestrial stuff gets washed, you know, 5, 10, 15, 20 miles, you know, when the big rains and all that come through. Chondros are sitting up in their trees. Basins are sitting up in their trees. You know, they don't get washed away and travel any of those distances like that. And I think to a degree that there is inbreeding going on in the wild population. And that is the reason why the green trees have so many problems with the inbreeding. Because, you know, I see this with, you know, berms and balls, and people just keep going and going and going. And it's like, yeah, I don't know specifics what they're doing, but it's like, okay, that's the same line of you know, pick whatever morph it is, you know, like the albinos and the pieballs are all I really knew. But with chondros, you can't do it. I've done it firsthand. I always had a problem with it from the very beginning, but I remember like with Jade, I bred one of her daughters to one of the sons just for the simple reason that if you bred anything else to Jade blood, you're taking away from it. You know, the robustness, the muscle tone, the size, the head shape, like everything about it. And it, you know, first generation in, not a problem, but I would never repeat it again, you know, and I've seen that with so many of these issues where they, you know, they can't digest rats, you know, these people that have them, that they're, you know, they have adult chondros that they're feeding mice to. And I didn't really realize how bad the situation had gotten until I'd taken in a breeder loan from a fellow that had, he had one, it was like basically green, but it had a yellow head. And it was something that I've always had a big problem with, was getting a consistent yellow head. I would do all yellow bodies, but I would get a green top of the head. This one had the yellow. So I ended up agreeing to take it in. I had the quarantine space to do it. And I was just breeding those two together, so I didn't need to expose any of my stuff. I had a separate sink and everything to clean that and all that, so I wasn't worried about anything. because of, they were 2 cages that Doug had given me, those habitat cages, which way too big. They're way too big to breed chondros in, but it's doable. And so they come in, I start feeding them rats. Female's doing great. Female starts putting on weight like a champ. She's doing well weight-wise and where it's going. The male would go into, like, how the ball python defensive posture is?
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys can get them to do that, in captivity or not. But it would curl, it would go into these double sheds and then curl up into a ball like a ball python. And I remember I was talking to the guy and we're going over just problems, just talking out loud for the sake of just throwing stuff out there. And I said, you know what? Like, this is a male. Maybe I should just switch this damn thing back to mice. And I'm like, nah, that's stupid. Because why the hell would I want to feed a chondro? You know what I mean? Why would I feed an adult chondro a mouse? And he says, I get a little further in on spinning these ideas, and he's like, you know what? You should do that. And I've already moved on to a couple ideas. And I'm like, well, what do you mean? Do what? And he said, feed it mice. And I'm like, well, maybe I should just do that. I've got plenty of mice. I bred mice, for Christ's sakes. I mean, I ended up throwing away thousands of mice because I hated killing the things off. So I always end up waiting until they were full size and then kill them off. And I didn't need anything. I didn't need all those mice at full size. And so I switch it back, and it fixes everything. All the problems that I had went through, because I kid you not, when I see those 2 snakes, and this is what I understand the problems that people have. I mean, I couldn't even imagine a whole collection like that. Because I tell you, those 2 animals required more time than the 30 adults I had upstairs and the 100 babies that I had in the baby room and subadults in that room. I spent more time with those 2 snakes on all the problems they had than everything else that was in that house at the time. So I know when people buy into, and that's one of the things where I try to, get out there and start shit every 5 years a little bit, poke the bear, and get people thinking about this stuff again, because I know once you've spent $6,000 to $8,000 on a baby, you cannot admit to yourself that you have a problem animal, let alone to anybody else. So you're now stuck with it and you're invested in it, and it just keeps repeating. And it's just one of those things that, like, I never seem to get to anybody in time, but I mean, some of this stuff I can just say with 100% certainty, the problems that they're having and everything else, and they just start describing it. I can even figure out the lines, but a lot of these, you can figure out the bloodlines just by looking at the head shape. Like, body structure was always my thing, so the head shape was always a big giveaway on a lot of the bloodlines. And then when I would tell people, like, look at the pictures that are posted, because there was a long time nobody knew to hide that. So when they had the skin folds, I'd say, look at these pictures here. You can see the skin fold. And once people started figuring that out and looking at it, then they started realizing, and I mean, like, again, this is private conversations because you couldn't have those conversations publicly. So people started looking at that and then seeing it, and then, because I'm like, that is 100% genetic. Well, how do you know? Okay, so here we go again. So you want high yellow or high white or high black. That's the only thing that you think is genetic about this? The body structure of the animal, the head shape of the animal, none of that matters. The defects in their skin, I mean, I've seen some crazy I remember when I can give you a good example because Lecky had a good portion of blue line stuff. And I remember in like 2005, he called me up and he had only gotten like 1 or 2 animals from me at that point, back in the 90s. But we always kept in touch and everything. And he's like, Rob, I'm done with this. This is just too much of a problem. And I didn't know what he was dealing with. I didn't know those kind of problems really yet at that point. Well, wait, what year was this? No, I was already aware. I just didn't take into consideration, like I knew dealing with it what I had dealt with. So he has, that's 05. So 07, he says to me, all right, I'm done. I've had it. He had bred one a year before and got one baby out of it that lived like a week or 2 weeks or something like that. And so I went down and I'm looking at the because he wants to sell everything. He wants to get rid of the cages. He wants to get rid of the snakes. He wants to get rid of everything. And I knew he had like a really, some really unique stuff that he was really proud with. He would always carry around his pictures and stuff that he had. And I went through and I looked at the collection and I'm looking at like the high black one that he has. And that was the result of some kind of defect in the skin. It was black because it was missing a layer of skin. It wasn't black because it was black. It was the scale. I've never seen scales like that before. And I'm going through and I'm looking at this. He has the one that he bred the year before. Okay, so she's almost a year to the day where she had laid that clutch. And she looks like a yearling to me. I mean, it's one of the things I had this up here before. So she's on, this is 1 inch, no, this is 3/4 inch PVC. This is what my subadults are on. And I said, John, I looked through and everything, and I'm like, there is nothing that I would have taken out of that collection for free. I'm like, John, this is nothing to do with you. I could not breed these things. I know what you're dealing with. I wish I would have like gotten into this sooner, you know, because it's like you kind of just wasted 2 years. But I said, look, it's the animals. It has nothing to do with you. And I had to say that to him like 3 times. And I finally got this look from him. And I could see it in his face that he realized what I was saying. Like, dude, it's not you. It's real. When I say it's not you, it's the animals. And he bought, within 6 months to a year, he got a jade female. Because I had like 7 or 8 of them at the time. And he got one of those. He got a mixture of everything. And he went on and bred every single animal that he got from me. And has made and built his collection off of that. And has had no problems. So when I say that I know what people are going through, I mean, I'm not kidding. Like I said, when I dealt with those 2 animals, and I was burnt out on those 2 so bad that I didn't even want to do my breeding season that year. Because they ended up going. That was the thing. The guy put me in a really tough spot then. He's like, well, I said, look, dude, you just got to get these snakes. Like, I don't even want to breed these things. There's nothing here that I want to see the genetics passed on. There's nothing here that I want. You know, let somebody else deal with this or you deal with it, whatever. And then he sold them to another fella that he came up and picked them up. And he's like, oh, tell them how good they are and everything. I'm like, dude, I can't do that. You know, like, if he asks me anything, I'm telling him why these things are going. And luckily, I don't think the guy asked, but I just felt it just put me in an awkward position. But I'm like, this is going to wreck my whole season. These things have to go. And that fellow ended up taking him. I have no idea whatever happened to him after that. But I mean, it's just, I just find it odd that only color is genetic, but then overall size, the body structure of them, everything else down the list is not genetic. And I just think that's just odd that we're still having that conversation today, you know? Because, but I get it though. Like I said, I mean, this is the problem. Once people are invested that heavily, they can't admit to themselves that there's a problem, let alone to anybody else.
Hey, Rob,
And,
I have a question for you, because I've been listening pretty intently on your argument about the genetics of things. And we have multiple examples of like color and pattern in chondros being genetic. I mean, we can see multiple blue line pairings, calico, high yellow, where you can get a sense that color is genetic. It's not absolute, but you can get a sense that if you want a blue chondro, best way to get it is to breed 2 chondros that are blue or have a history of blue.
yeah.
Skinfold, for example, have we done enough breedings with 2 animals that have skin folds, bred them, and checked the babies for skin folds? Have we done enough where we've bred an animal that doesn't have a skin fold to an animal that has a skin fold and looked at the babies to see how many animals have skin folds? I mean, I just think.
Well, for the skin folds, I can answer that. But no, go ahead. Sorry, didn't mean to cut you off.
No. I'm just, yeah, yeah, absolutely. So I just, have there been enough of these pairings to say we don't know any of this for certainty because we haven't done any true scientific studies of color, skin folds, feeding. But, is there enough anecdotal evidence to say that yes, skin folds are genetic, and I know they are because of this?
Okay. I had bought an animal from OS because I wanted to get it. I was sort of sick of yellows. I'd only bred yellows, and I'm like, okay, I want to get into the red stuff. And I'd gotten some from Trooper, and I'd gotten well, this is the kicker. I traded 5 jade animal yearlings for a 2-year-old OS male that was a red baby. Nothing about it would stick out color-wise, but it was a red baby. I just wanted to start messing around with red babies for something different. And it had that skin fold in it where this thing, it's where the term we ended up with the het for flying chondros, because this one was so bad. Picture a green tree python that you have stretched, you're holding it in your hand and it's stretched out like 2 feet. All right. Now imagine that made out of plastic and you stick it on a burner and you melt it flat. Okay. It had a section of skin fold about this much, where the damn thing, it looked like it could take a leap out of a tree and glide to the next tree. That's how bad it was. And this is the thing that I feel so bad about, because I remember they were down at Mars and they ended up staying over at Phil's because they were trying to indoctrinate me into that whole quick star thing. And I was an idiot kid and didn't realize what was going on. But so they came up to put the pressure on me for that. But I remember watching Cindy load that snake into a rack at Phil's house, and it's crawling out, and she's leading it into the cage. And I saw it, but I didn't know what I was looking at. I just thought it was the way it was tensing its muscle up. Because I owned that snake probably for 4 or 5 months before it dawned on me, holy shit, this is permanent. Like, it can't undo this. This is the way this snake is. So that was, I had the conversation at Buddy's place on the Chondro Fest.
Yeah, I think I remember this.
Yeah, so I'm down there, and I said to Gene, like, Gene, I don't know what's wrong with this snake, but I don't want to breed this. Like, this just doesn't there's nothing I can do with this, you know, just replace it, you know. And he's like, yeah, bring it down to Mars and we'll take care of it. So the next Mars show comes up. I bring the snake down. He's there busy talking for like 2 hours. So you were probably there. I mean, at least 15 to 20 people had saw this snake. It wasn't a secret because, oh, what are you doing? Well, I got this snake here. Well, let's see it. Well, what's that skin fold? Not like, well, yeah, you picked up on that really quick. You know, I don't know what we were calling it at that point. If it was just the skin, I mean, because it looked like I said,
we were calling it the flying chondro.
It looked like it was melted.
That's what the flying chondro is.
Well, the head. This is where so this is where this is what became the issue. So the concern was that snake. I didn't know what to do with. Okay, I'm like, I can't breed this because I know in my heart it's genetic. There's no question in my mind it's genetic. I'm not breeding this snake. So no. I haven't. This is going to the story.
Okay.
So I can't figure out what to do, right? And I had the snake at that point, I think 4 years. So it's 6 years old. Mr. Mighty Red Baby dies. Then it wasn't long after that one. They all died around the same age, not the same time necessarily, but it was the same age. So this is a red male, Mr. Mighty. He died at 6 or 7. That one died at 6. So I'm like, okay, I don't need to worry about this. Miss Mighty died at 10. Another animal that's a whole other story. But I had prayed for like the last 4 years that I had her that she would just die because I didn't know what the hell to do with the damn thing anymore. I had people every year because her first clutch went out and I had outcrossed her with a really good animal. Not in the sense of like, but really good in compared to the genetics that she had in her. So it was a really good outcross.
She had a skin fold?
No, I'm not on the skin fold part yet. So, okay. So, but I'm just saying all those reds though died, right? Which doesn't that just seem strange that none of them made it past 10? But you mind the lineage though. Keep in mind the lineage. So I had a woman that she had to get a heart transplant and she had to get rid of all her reptiles. Well, she had about 7 animals from me and an 8th from OS. That had a skin fold. So I took those animals back and set up sort of a makeshift quarantine because I knew she didn't have anything else, but she had that one in there. And I was still already, I was paranoid of Nido virus before Nido ever had a word for it. So that was the whole reason with artificial, because I never wanted the babies around the parents. That was why I pushed so urgently from the beginning to do that, because I wanted to have babies that had never been exposed to the parents. But anyway, I take that animal and it was a really colorful critter, really high yellow in places, big blotches of white, just like 4 or 5, let's say 8, 10, 12 scales, but these big blotches on it of white. It was just a really good looking animal, but it had the skin fold. So I gave it to Bear and I said, look, this is the deal. You breed this thing. If they show the trait, then you have to euthanize the babies, because then the problem becomes, are you going to create hets for that condition? Are any of those siblings that are normal going to now be hets for that skin fold condition?
Flying snakes?
Yeah. So that's sort of where the whole het for flying chondro thing came from, was with that discussion. So I already knew, like I said, I knew the answer to this already, that this is 100% genetic. So he takes the snake, he breeds it, he gets wasn't a big clutch, but he gets like 6 or 7 babies out of the clutch with the skin folds. And in my mind, that was it. There was another one that I'm trying to think through it was, but I know that's probably not good enough for what you're thinking, but I knew it was genetic when I had that one from Gene. Like I knew it's absolutely going to do this, because I remember when the excuses came out about it initially was like, okay, we're going to blame the perches and shit like that. And it's like, you know, let's take just me and Leshak. Okay, at that point in time, we'd produced well over 1,000 chondros between us. Never seen it. So if it was something like a perch, we would have seen it already, right? Like that would have been there. But we've never seen it. So how can you blame perches or something environmental if we all do our separate things, different, you know, baby racks, stuff like that? Like, we would have seen it if it was something like that.
Well,
And it's just,
I think it's very compelling that if you did indeed breed an animal with a skin fold and some or half or all of the babies had skin folds, I think that's a very compelling argument that, in fact, you know, there's a genetic component.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, it was, I want to say there was like 14 in the clutch or something like that. It wasn't anything great. I mean, the animals with those genetics just don't have big clutches. They just never do. But yeah, it was like 6 or 7 with the skin fold, and some actually had it worse than what that one was, which, I mean, that was bad. But that was the thing that I kind of lost touch with him. I know he euthanized the ones that had it. But like I said, that was the conversation that we had, where you have to euthanize the normal ones as well, because we don't want those getting out there and then creating het for flying chondro. You know, so that was the whole thing. And I mean, I hate to get to that point, but that's what it is. Like, you can't pass off something like that. I mean, this is one of the things I said earlier, which, I mean, I didn't realize. I mean, think about this for just a second, guys, how twisted this is. The pedigree, in my mind, was developed for one reason. That would be so that you don't accidentally cross anything and inbreed. The pedigree was done so that they knew what to inbreed. That was the whole point of having that woman sit down and develop that pedigree system, so that they knew what to inbreed, so that they could get an albino. That was the whole hope. Inbreed, eventually you're going to get het, then boom, you're going to get the albino.
That works.
So what?
And it worked.
What everybody got, though, out of that, unfortunately, was all the failed attempts at their chondro project, their albino chondro project, became everybody else's pet breeder, you know. And that's the thing about it, that just, like, when you look back and you think of this stuff, and it's like how this was started. I mean, who would ever? Because I remember the first time. This was before I realized it. I remember I was down there, and I was helping Gene out at the show, and he said something to the effect of, you know, you just breed. You want an albino, you just breed for it. And I didn't know anything about genetics at that point, and I'm like, I don't even know if I responded. I just thought, I mean, I'm like, that's like winning the lottery. What are you going to? What could you possibly do to get an albino? You know, and here, this is when I find out later, all this stuff starts clicking. Then these past conversations and everything else, and I'm like, oh my God. I said this before. I thought when I got into this, there was a bigger purpose. Like, and I realize how naive and idiotic that is now. But I thought what we were doing was sort of to stop animals from being pulled from the wild, offer captive bred and born animals. People would go with that, and that would sort of leave everything in the wild go. We've got good stuff here we know is designed and built for captivity and thrives in it. This is what you want. And it would leave all the imported stuff alone. And nobody but me was on that delusion. Like, it was just, you know, I don't know what I was smoking. I realize now how delusional that is, because I remember having that conversation with that helper that Winslow Murdoch had up here in PA, and I remember saying something about that, something to the effect of, you know, like the cause of it, like the point of this, and he just had no idea what the hell I was talking about. I'm like, oh, okay, I guess it's just me, you know. But I just always thought there was a bigger. The idea behind this is to stop the pillaging of the wild stuff, and stop the misery of what I went through. I know what I went through starting and watching these things die. And I mean, fortunately, that was only a couple. But then, like the problems that I had with, like, the one that an OS female that I had named Cindy, that animal. The whole reason I developed the boot camp was because of her, because the hell that snake made my life. I mean, for the first year of her life, she came in at 6 months old. I took her because she had eaten the most meals out of all the siblings. Because I said, look, just give me the one that's eaten the most. That's all I care about. And I get it home, and this was the one question that I had asked, and this is what saved me, and this is what sort of turned me then to direction of Leshak. Because I'm going over this, and he's like, what temperatures are you? Because the thing, she would not eat. She would look like, she'd go 2 months, look like she's getting ready to die, take a meal. Then that's all she did for the next 6-8 months. She'd go 2 months, look like she was going to die, take a meal, and repeat. And I remember thinking, I'm not cut out for this. I shouldn't be keeping green tree pythons. Like, I'm not doing this right. I'm just going to send the damn thing back to Eugene and just call it quits. And I was talking to Leshak, and he said, what temperatures are you allowing the room to go down to at night? What temperatures is the cage going down to? And I said 73. He's like, don't let a baby go below 80 degrees. Well, I cranked the temperatures up to 80, and she starts eating. And now, mind you, this is the only question that had ever been answered for me in my life from a snake person. And he sort of did it inadvertently, because he knew, like, okay, this guy's going to quit if you don't get this thing to eat. But so, you know, because people were not helpful at that point in time.
Yeah.
But it wound up, you know, I wound up getting a bunch of animals from him. So, I mean, it worked well. But, yeah, I mean, she got to the point when she was, and this was always the thing, once you breed them, you can fix them. Once you get them to lose that weight, then you can fix them, you know, but only a female. Now, if you got a male, you're screwed, because what the hell is a male going to do? If it's a problem feeder and it was started incorrectly, it's never going to do well. Female, get her big enough. So it took me 6 years to get her to 1,000 grams. At that point in time, I didn't know you could breed a chondro at 1,000 grams. It never would have occurred to me to try to breed a chondro under 1,500. Like, it just didn't look right. I just wouldn't even consider the whole thing. So I had already established, though, at that point that 1,000 was big enough, because that's all the bigger that she was going to get. and she's 6 years old. I breed her. It fixes her. She starts eating, doing well and everything, and pounding. And that's when that sort of set in for me everything that I did after that. I'm like, I'm going to make sure that nobody ever goes through this. And in fact, that was my goal. I don't care what species you keep. My green tree is going to eat better than whatever the hell you have. You have an Argentine boa that eats great at home. Wait till you get one of my chondros. That was the goal. And it worked really well on that. And that was the whole point of, playing the games of withholding food from them, and then getting them on a routine and then withholding and wait till they search and, all that shit to just get them so that when they shipped, they did not get thrown off food. And nobody ever went through the crap that I did, because I was literally 2 weeks away from giving up with that because of that snake. That was my turning point. If another 2 weeks, I would have sent the snake back to Eugene and I would have walked away from chondros.
And just by
in a way, it probably would have been better if I would have done that and focused on other things in life that I was, I didn't go to college to freaking breed green tree pythons. It's just one of those things, that happened. But,
the temperatures is what adjusted everything for you, is what you're saying.
Because she was the only one that I had at that time, that she was the first that I knew for certain was captive bred and born. There was no question in my mind. Okay, she's captive bred and born. But I'm trying to think what else I had then. Yeah, I'm just trying to think. I know there was some bigger stuff in there. They weren't affected by the night drop like that. But the baby, yeah, by bringing that temperature up to 80 degrees. So that was sort of my rule then. Like, all my helixes were set 80 degrees at night, 93, 95 during the day, depending on what cage or whatever. And yeah, never had an issue. But you could see it in her responsiveness and everything, her alertness, everything else. Like when I brought that temperature up, 73 for a 6-month-old or yearling at the point, really.
Yeah, it's cold.
Whatever was, yeah, that's just too cold, And I mean, knowing now what I would never consider. I mean, because you can see it, and even when you're cooling them down and everything else, you can see it in the adults how they kind of slow down and everything when you're cooling the breed and all that. But I mean, the hundreds of hours that I spent laying on the floor of my snake room, watching chondros at night to just figure out the behaviors and things and what was going on and everything. Like, not a lot was really accomplished in that. Failed a few classes because of that, because I missed the early morning stuff. I wouldn't really get up in time for it. Like, I remember history and systems of psychology. I ended up failing. Had to take that over again because of that. But I mean, I think it was worth it. But there's a lot. Like, one of the things, like, a lot of people say, they never saw their pair breed. And one of the things that I found out pretty early on was that you would go to bed at night and get up the next day and you'd see him on either side of the cage in the same spot. There is so much that goes on at night. Yeah, for sure. That most people have no idea because everybody's asleep to get up to work. But between 3 to 5 o'clock, I would see males go over, cruise around, breed the living crap out of the female, and then go back over into the corner. And if I didn't watch that, I would have no idea. They're just curled up, sitting on either side. You'd have no idea that they ever moved. But this is one of the things, too, where these people that run multiple males, where they have no idea who the father or the sire. Yeah, multiple males. They don't know who the sire is, and it's like, you don't need. I mean, if you don't know who the father is, well, I mean, they would show everybody who the father is, but behind the scenes, we knew they didn't know who the father was. you know, but the best looking male is the one that was their father. This is one of the things I think that throws everybody on genetics for so long, because, well, this is the father, when in fact, no, that wasn't the father. Because they breed a lot truer than I think a lot of people realize for a lot of the traits. But because so many people are doing that and they don't know who the father is, it's hard for them then to see it. And then I think you have instances where you could have one clutch that's fathered by two different males even. And that throws things on. Yeah. So, I mean,
Interesting.
Until you start, you know, really tracking all that stuff, I think, you know, it gets hard to say. But yeah, that leads... Oh my God. Yeah, I don't want to go down the scam road, but the stuff that I'm still seeing today, a lot of people have been sending me pictures and stuff lately. They're like, oh, do you think I should get this? You should get that. I'm like, well, what is it that you're looking for? Whatever. Well, I'm looking for high black. Okay, well, I can't tell you from looking at a baby picture what the hell that's going to do. What do the parents look like? Well, there aren't any pictures of the parents. It's 2024.
Yeah.
How do you not have? We had pictures of the parents, for God's sakes, since 35mm film.
Yeah.
Like, how do you not have that? Everybody's got a phone in their back pocket, you know.
Yeah.
Like, there's something else going on here. If you're not getting a picture of the parent, you know. But yeah, it's just, we're in a weird period here right now. It really is. I don't know what exactly is going on, but there's some weird things going on right now. I don't know.
Well, check it out. Listen, we got to get to the wrap-up topic point of the episode, and I'm going to go with my wrap-up topic. We'll go with either Marshall or Bill, and I'm going to revert back to incubation here. You know, obviously we're talking about temperatures being a crucial part of you having success with that baby Neo, but what about like figure out temperatures that worked out for you when incubating the eggs? And also, did you deal with a lot of fully formed dead in the egg type scenarios that you had to figure out, and then did you ever figure that out as far as full term dead in the eggs and, you know, that sort of side of you know, being successful at breeding chondros?
Let me see. I mean, I know I had a lot of full term in the freezer that were dead. The first clutch that I did artificially, I did on sphagnum moss. And the thing that was sad about it is it was day 30 for the female, and I pulled her because she kept dropping them. The eggs weren't adhered together, and she kept sort of dropping them out of her coil. And but they were all fertile. And I know some people question that because they weren't adhering, but it's like, well, they were fully formed babies that were dead. But only one made it out of that and lived for like 11 days on that first one. But as far as the temperatures go, I mean, the big change for me, the last little hurdle I had was I hadn't figured out the embryonic placement yet. And because I was still getting little hiccups here and there that I couldn't explain. And I'm like, there's something about this that's not right yet. Once I started canneling them and then making sure that they were south, which you could do a whole damn paper on how the embryos shift and connection to the other eggs. That in itself is freaking amazing, the way that works.
Wait, hold on. You want the embryo to be south, like on the bottom part of the egg? What do you mean by south?
Yeah, you want the yolk above it. Or no, fuck. Thank God you cleared that up.
All right.
Yeah, no, you want the embryo on top.
All right.
Because you don't want the weight on the bottom. So once I began doing that, then that cleared up the last little hiccup. Because I would see things from time to time that like, this ain't right. And once I started doing that, then I didn't see anything anymore. Because I would see like deformities and here and there and stuff that like, is this temperature? You know, like just kinked up babies, you know, like the spines and stuff are adhered together. And I'm like, what the hell is going on? And that's the thing where, you know, the embryo drifts within the first 24 to 48 hours. So that would sort of lead me to believe that the damage is done initially within the first day, because the embryo drifts inward. So it doesn't matter anymore at that point where the yolk is.
Right.
So yeah, you know, embryo side up, and then that eliminated that, and that the temperatures and everything that I had worked with at that point, I couldn't even tell you anymore now why I settled on that. But
and what temps were you at? Like what like physically, like what were the temps?
Like 89.
89.
Yeah. And that would give me, for years, I would pip on about day 40. They started pipping on like day 48. And so I would always pip, make sure that I pip before, because I learned my lesson on my very first clutch, where the biggest baby in the batch drowned. It popped its head out, and then I don't know if I spooked it when I lifted up the thing or whatever, but it pulled its head back in, and then it drowned, and it was like this was the biggest, plumpest baby in the damn clutch, and I really just let this thing die. So I got to the point where I would just pip them after that. And then the thing that kind of got weird is towards the later years, nothing had changed on that. I started hatching on like day 47, which I just thought was weird. So, because I always like to try to pip, like I said, so that I never risk losing that in there. And that's the thing where I don't understand, because I remember getting criticism over that. Well, if they're going to die, just let them die. And I'm like, this is the one, let them die from not eating correctly. Like, there's a million reasons we can go through on why to let them die. But I mean, not to drown in a damn egg because, you know, they're missing a damn egg tooth that they did it wrong. You know, like, give them a chance from that point, for God's sakes, you know.
Right.
So, yeah, I mean, yeah, after I figured out that stuff, then I didn't see any more of the, you know.
Let me double down too real quick. Did you guys have fans in your incubators back then? The Igloo one that you were using? Did you have some sort of like a computer fan or anything helping with circulation?
That's you guys, right? Not me.
That's you. That is to you.
Me?
Yeah, you, Rob.
No, I never used a fan.
Never used a fan. Okay.
No.
All right. Well, there goes that. All right, Bill. Or Marshall wants to go next with their wrap-up topic?
I'll ask Rob. Rob, we've talked a lot about the past, but I'm kind of curious about like the present. Are you keeping? When was the last time you kept a chondro, or do you have?
Yeah, I still have. That was the thing. After I had the stroke, 3 guys came up and took the animals out of here because my mother had posted online. You know, I had the stroke. Somebody's got to take care of these things, and it's fortunately John got the more important ones, and I got those back. I got back like Sapphire and Jasper. The other guys, I got few from the one guy. One of them got sold off, including one of my incubators. Then posted it on Facebook. It's like, really, dude? Like you're just gonna sell it? You're not going to call me and say, hey, you know, I need room. Come get this, something, you know. But they went shopping here, so to speak, and just inventory of tools and hooks and incubators and things like that, and helixes and FlexWatt and cages. And I didn't get any of that stuff back. So the only thing I got back really was from John.
I'm sorry to hear that. So you do have how many?
Yeah, I still have. I have 1 pair here right now. Unfortunately, like the other stuff I had, it was just older stuff. In fact, the thing that was really weird was I had gotten back 3 of Shade's siblings that I got back. So that would have been late 2019 or very early 2020. And I was stoked because I'm like, everybody got so excited about that black and everything. And I knew it was just the dumbest luck because I was talking to the guy for a while and then it finally hit me like, holy shit, this is the guy. And then, because he didn't keep any of the records or anything, it's what always drove me nuts. Is the birth date is their code number. You know what I mean? So if he just would have kept that, I would have known. But he didn't. But I got that back. But all those animals, were produced in like 2000, whenever that 2000, 2001, something like that. And 2001. And they passed from old age. I mean, and then I had Sapphire and Jasper here. They were both 98 babies, and they ended up passing.
Damn.
Because the collection had gotten sort of older at that point, and the only thing left here now is
that pair,
a Chloe Noah and Black Pearl, which I just had bred them, and everything went perfect. But I knew I didn't have the weight on her. I wasn't feeding like I should have, and I got started really late because I didn't think I'd have a male in store. And then I started getting better and realized, oh shit, no, wait, I could do this, because that got to be the issue. Like, we're just carrying the water back and forth of full water bowls to take into the snake room. I didn't have the steadiness, because my left leg was just sort of shaky, and I couldn't, I get frustrated because I couldn't take the water. I'd have to fill it like halfway, and that was it, because I would spill it. And but I'd started progressing so much quicker this past August that I'm like, okay, I can do this again. I can do this. And went through and started feeding her up and everything. And I knew it was sort of a shot. I'm like, but yeah, she slugged out on me. So that was sort of the last shot out of those for this year anyway.
Well,
but
always next year, as they say in the Chondro world. All right. What's your wrap-up question, Marshall?
Absolutely.
So one of the things that, I'll jot questions down so I don't forget them sometimes. And one of the things that I've written down for tonight was, and you kind of touched on this for just very briefly earlier, but I always thought I remembered that you had told me, or you had posted something that you had double clutched a female, which, a lot of colubrids breeders will do that, where they just breed a female back to back and they'll produce. And I think you said earlier that you had a female, I forget which one you were talking about, Jade maybe, that produced two within a year. And did I hear that correctly?
Yeah, no, I didn't double clutch her. I've never even attempt anything like that. The only person I ever knew that did that was Trooper. Now, I bred her in, she laid her first clutch in Jade, 8/13/99.
Oh, wow.
And then 5/7 of 2000. So that was the one where, very problematic feeder, realized quickly why Leshuk let her go. But he had cleaned her up well. There was no parasite, because that damn girl lived forever. I mean, she had to be damn near 30 years old when she died. But she was the one that in 5 meals she had put back all her weight. She gained back the 1 pound that she lost on those. It was like 17 or 18. Being her first clutch. They never do well. But the second. So the day her eggs hatched, she had gained back all her weight. She was at 1,500. So when I bred her, like 7 months later, she was at 2,200 grams. So, I mean, she was, plenty good. Like, I felt fine breeding her again at that point. I mean, even though it seemed kind of quick, it's like, but like I said, I'll never see another bloodline like that again in my life. Like, that was just a 1 in a million kind of thing. You know, just dumb luck, right time. I deserved that snake. I deserved that snake. I can say that, like, with everything that I went through with these damn animals, like, I deserve to see something like that. But I mean, that's the thing. Unfortunately, there are a lot of people that will never see. I mean, to see anything like her, yeah, that's a 1 in a 100.
Yeah, I mean that's pretty unheard of. Two clutches within a year is that's that's the only time I've ever heard that. So
yeah, but I mean, like I said, you know, weight wise, she was back, so there was just no question. Like it, I don't know if I well, I don't know. I don't know if I'd necessarily do that now, but it wasn't a problem for her, you know. But she was just sort of one that I just really should have bred more of and produced more of, because I mean, she only did like, you know, what, 30 and 17. That's all I got out of her, and I really wish I wouldn't have pulled her, you know, and sort of retired her early. But you know, everything became color, and but she made the best. That was the thing, because I got so much trouble for that, where I had posted, I had like 6 or 7 of those, and the whole reasoning behind that was, if the Chondro market dropped to $50 a piece, I could still stay in it and breed those. You know, like the hell with the inbreeding, whatever. Just do these, recoup my money, and because you know, they just eat like they were just machines from the day. They were just a different animal. You know, they were like Argentine boas from the get-go. No, actually, they were better than Argentine boas. Argentine boas are kind of pricks to get them started, but they were just machines. And I had held all those, and I realized this is stupid. I need room here, and I put an advertisement up. And I said, look, that I'd already figured this out with breeding the other ones and stuff, and I knew that bloodline, even though they're green, you breed them to a blue, you breed them to yellow, whatever, it'll take that color. It's a green base, but it goes well with whatever. It shows that color perfectly. Yeah. You'll get like half your babies, you know, the color that you're looking for. Just breed it to that. And then this fella that I found out wasn't too long ago, that he never actually bred anything, because I was told he did. But he got frustrated and quit because he never bred anything. But he started this whole thing. I wasn't posting an MVF at that time, really. But I said, look, I've got these for sale. I put it up in the for sale section. I've got these. He starts and chimes in on it. And it's like, dude, if you would have just bought one of those and shut the hell up, there'd be blues everywhere today. You know, but he just had to turn it into the, how can you claim this and how can you claim that? It's like, well, I've been living it for the last how many years, dude? I don't know. Yeah. But yeah, it's just, you know, one of those things that were like, I had this kid, 16 years old. I had 2 golden glowworms left, right? He gets one of the golden glowworms because I didn't want to put anything out there with that name on it. And so I had them both for sale. And they were like 3-year-old females. He buys it. He wants to breed before he goes to college. So he's 16 years old, breeds her, gets eggs, hatches them. And I said, you know, it's a very good chance that you are the youngest person to ever do this. And so he posts on MBF, Rob Worrell thinks I'm the youngest to ever do this. What do you guys think? And you wouldn't believe the vitriol to a 16-year-old kid that I kind of felt responsible for, because I know, you know, everything with me is such a goddamn controversy. But it's like, let him have his moment, guys. He's 16 years old. Either answer the question, do you know somebody younger or not? Like, I said it's a safe assumption that you're the youngest, you know, because how many 16-year-old kids are doing this? And maybe at that point he had turned 17. I don't know. But he did it. That was his goal. He did it before he went to college, and, you know, he got it out of his system. And, yeah, it's just snake people, man. I tell you.
Hey, man. Hey, listen, it's been a great podcast, man. It's already 2.5 hours. I appreciate you so much. I do have hot seat questions for you, though. Okay, Rob? If that's okay with you. The way these work, I don't need a long answer. I need a quick answer to get you to the next one. Okay, so
All right.
do your
That might
best.
be tough.
Do your best. Everyone out there, please get the likes up. Hot seat questions, and then Phil Marshall will end with their one hot seat questions. All right, coming in hot. You ready, Rob?
Yep.
All right. Frozen thought or live?
Frozen. Absolutely. 100%. Without a doubt. Never live.
A cut or no cut?
What?
Would you ever cut a chondro egg, or would you never cut a chondro egg?
Oh, always cut. Always cut.
On what day?
You got, I mean, if you know, I always cut the day that they're due to hatch. So like when they're hatching day 48, I'm cutting day 48. If they're due that day, then I cut.
Red chondro neo or yellow chondro neo?
Yellow.
Favorite locality?
Whatever the hell Jade was.
Okay.
I mean, I'm a big fan of just the mainland greens.
If you had to guess what locality Jade was, if you just had to pick, what would be the closest thing you could think of?
Shit. What's the fat stubby ones? Keno just produced clutch from import to import.
Cyclops.
Yeah, she'd be Cyclops.
Okay, perfect. Pre first shed meal or post first shed meal?
Pre.
Yay imports or boo imports?
Boo.
To spray or miss a chondro, or to never spray and miss a chondro?
Missed.
Steak or fish?
For me?
Yeah, for you.
Steak.
Yay alcohol or boo alcohol?
If you can do it, boo. Honestly, there is no health benefits in alcohol.
Okay. Yay sports or boo sports?
I'm indifferent.
Okay. Favorite genre of music?
I'm a big Enya guy.
Why do I not? I feel like I know what that is. What's Enya? Is that like that?
I don't know what she would. I mean, it's just vocals, and
I think I know what you're talking about.
I don't know what.
I think I know what he's talking.
I don't know what genre that would be. I honestly don't know.
Like fish?
No, I don't. I'm trying to think.
Sounds like.
All right. Here we go. Moving forward. All right, now, Rob, moving forward. Little word association. Say the first thing that comes to mind. Are you ready?
Maybe.
Milk.
I flunked in this in a stroke, so you guys got to bear with me because I couldn't do this stuff.
You ready, Rob?
Yep.
All right. Milk. You wanted to say
Curdles. I don't know why.
Substrate.
Newspaper.
FedEx shipping.
I mean, we kind of have to deal with it, so it is what it is. Not a fan, but I mean, they're doing a better job than the airlines to some degree, so
First time green tree python breeder.
First time?
Yeah, what do you think of a first time green tree python breeder?
I mean, it's a feeling, dude, that there's nothing else in this world, I think, like breeding chondros. If that's in your blood and you want to do it, yeah. I mean, just remember that day, because it never gets better than that. But you'll remember it forever, though.
Last but not least, and we'll go to Bill or Marshall, but biggest bullshit locality in the green tree python game.
I would have to say the Manoarchies, or however you pronounce them.
Manicory? Damn. Oh, damn, that's heavy. All right,
Wow.
Bill or Marshall, who's going next?
All right. Rob, favorite designer line or phenotype?
The jade blood that I crossed to the baby doll stuff. So it was high yellow outcome.
High yellow.
Yeah, the high yellow stuff has always been my favorite thing. Like, I was always going for the solid yellow chondro. And unfortunately, as many as I made, I never ended up keeping any. Like, I always that made it to the color change and stay at my place. Like, that was sort of my goal, and it just never worked out. Put a lot of them out there, but never got to keep any of the damn things.
I know the feeling, bro.
Yeah,
All right, Marshall.
sucks.
Can't keep chondros anymore. What's your second favorite species?
I would have to say the Bolins
Oh, nice.
intrigue me. And the thing that, this is the kicker. I was offered 10 of them.
Wow.
10.
Breed. Okay, so all I had to do was breed them. I didn't have to pay for anything, just breed them. They're like, do what you did for chondros, do them with these. And I'm like, I don't have it in me to do it again. I couldn't. And with the size of them and everything. But looking at them now, like, I wish I would have looked at them more careful. Because, yeah, I'd say, yeah, Bolins.
They take up your whole house to breed 10 Bolins.
Yeah. Yeah.
You have a tiny little corner with a cot, and that would be it.
6 foot Neodeshes, times 10. Yeah.
Well, guess what, Rob? You did it. You did it, my man.
All righty.
You killed all the hot seat questions. We just had just shy of 70 people tapped in on this episode. What do you have to say to all the love and support you had on tonight's show, Rob?
I hope we covered everything that everybody was interested in. I know there's some stuff that I kind of missed. Best of luck to everybody out there, and don't inbreed your freaking chondros. Seriously, don't do it. Don't do it.
Hey, we need you back first and foremost. I don't feel like we got enough out of this episode either. I think we need to bring you back at some point, which I could definitely see that happening. But guys, please do me a favor, go follow Robert Worrell on Instagram, and have a good night, Rob. Thank you so much for hanging out with us.
All right, I'm glad to be on with you guys.
All right,
Thanks, Rob.
all right, give it up
See
for
you,
Rob
Rob.
Worrell to wrap
All
it up.
right. You guys take it easy.
Later, Rob. Peace. Cool guy. Good episode. What'd you get? Hey, we're live by the way, Bill. But no, just kidding. What do you guys think though, man? I thought it was a great episode. I really do.
I thought it was great too. We have a tradition of like honoring and paying tribute to the people in our community, to the people that got us to where we are. When he was doing it, if you just listen to his own words, he had nobody to turn to.
Yep.
He didn't have the internet, doesn't really sound like he had a mentor. So he, what he learned and what he shared was really literally, just off of the cuff stuff. So you got to respect that, and you talk to people. I don't know Rob, but I've talking to enough people like that I respect, like Matt Morris, who has known him for a very long time and thinks very highly of him. About his knowledge and his history with green trees. And so, I give him a lot of props. I give him a lot of leadway in the things that he says because he's earned it. And
Agreed. Yeah.
So some of the things that I was questioning, for example, the double ovulation thing, I didn't understand when he was talking about reproductive cycle and the female ovulates once and then she ovulates again like 5 days, 7 days later. I didn't understand that. And maybe it's my misunderstanding of green tree or python physiology.
I have definitely seen like what I thought was the full ovulation, and then a couple of days goes by and then it's like, oh shit, there it is. So I don't know if he meant something like that. Maybe like, you're calculating the days where you thought she fully ovulated, but hasn't yet. Only thing I can really think wrap my head around that. But either way.
I'm not sure. I give him, like I said, he has earned the leadway. I give him a lot of respect for the things he has to say, his opinions about things, because he's seen a lot. He's seen it over time, and he's seen it from the beginning. So,
what's up? All right, what do you think, Marshall, of tonight's show?
No, same. Yeah, I always love bringing the old guys on that have been doing it for so long. And like I said, he was one of the people that was that I turned. He was. I'm not going to say mentor, but he was one of the people that mentored me for sure. He offered me help. We talked on the phone even before we met. And I've always thought very highly of him. You always hear about, everybody always remembers the controversial stuff and the internet, forum arguments. And hell, him and I have argued on forums, a million times. But who can't say that? I argue with everybody.
Goddamn right, brother.
Yeah, we have a lot to argue about, don't we?
That's what I like. That's what I think everybody remembers about him, but also sometimes it gets lost in the wash that, yeah, he's produced more chondros than almost anybody.
Yeah, and that's coming from Marshall. So heavy words, my guy, heavy words. But I think overall, great episode. I think we should bring it back too. What do you think?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, one thing that used to be, we talked about it a little bit, and it used to be, I don't think we've talked about it once since we've started doing the show, is the skin fold thing.
Yeah, the flying snake or the flying chondro, that shit's fucking hilarious. God damn.
Yeah. I mean, I remember that whole situation. I remember, now that he says it, brings back these memories. I remember him standing at Eugene's table with the snake in the bag for like he said, 2 hours. I mean, and then he pulled it out, and then had the skin fold. I mean, it was like a long skin fold, like on a third of its body or more. And but you don't really hear about that anymore. It doesn't seem as prevalent as it was back in the day. And who knows if that's because
I brought it up multiple fucking times. It shows how much
you have. Okay.
Fuck yeah. I mean, in our chats and stuff, yeah. Like, bro, I mean,
skin folds still happen. In fact, I sent an animal to MJ that ended up developing a skin fold.
No, you didn't. Not for me.
I thought it did. I thought the red baby that I sent you had a skin fold.
No, that shit's solid as fuck.
Oh, maybe I'm confused. Well, anyway, I have 2 animals here that have skin folds, but again, totally unrelated animals. I've produced hundreds of chondros. I know of 2. I thought 3. I thought MJ had a skin fold. Anyway, I know of 2 that I've produced that have skin folds. They were completely unrelated. Nobody else has tested me. Hey, you sent me an animal with a skin fold. So I'm still trying to wrap my head around how that's genetic. I think it's just an anatomical defect that these things can get. Just like we can be born with anatomical defects that are not genetic. They just happen in nature. But
I have a basin that has one.
A skin fold?
Yeah.
Yeah. Where's that? Is it on the upper, lower, mid? Where's it at?
It's like where you always see it, down the middle part of
the body. It's usually bilateral.
Yeah.
Don't you guys remember that old Greg Maxwell fucking snake I got a few years back that ended up dying from crazy skin fold? Did I ever show you guys that? I think I did, right?
I don't remember if you did.
Yeah, this snake was like 20 years old, but yeah, skin folds, man, it's still a thing for sure, Marshall. We talk about it. You're just not really listening.
I mean, no, I don't think anybody knows the answer to the skin fold.
Definitely no answer for sure. There's no answer to it. And I for sure noticed that it is slightly cosmetic and can go away at certain points. As far as like if you see it at a young age, I've noticed it does kind of go away sometimes as they get bigger. But it doesn't mean it doesn't come back, or show back, or I don't know. But
I've got one. I've got a female. That interestingly enough, I'm going to breed her this year.
Nice. Yeah, I'm curious how that works out.
It's going to be an interesting. She's got a big skin fold, kind of like the one that Rob was. Hell, it could be a flying chondro for sure.
Yeah.
But, I think it's going to be very interesting to see, certainly if she produces a significant number of offspring that have skin folds, then I would say, listen, man, it's genetic. At least in that case, I think certain abnormalities can be genetic and some of them can be spontaneous. So I just don't think that was my point to Rob. I think MJ, you stepped away for a minute, but that was my whole point with skin folds is it's such a rare occurrence.
Right.
How do you really,
How many times are you really looking at that?
how do you really prove it unless you're, just have got multiple animals that you've bred that have them, or breed an animal that has a skin fold to another animal that has a skin fold? That could really tell you a lot.
I gotta tell you one thing: if this is true, nobody wants visual fucking flying chondros. That's for sure. That's not a good look. But anyways, listen, great episode tonight. I appreciate you guys both. Please follow Red Mountain Herps, my man Marshall Mendez on Instagram, and of course the mayor, Phoenix Reptiles. Guys, have a good night. We'll see you next week. Give it up for Marshall Mendez and Bill Siegel. It's a wrap.
See ya.
See you in a week.
All right, guys. See you later. Peace. All right, guys. Great episode. Thank you so much. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell, select all, and don't forget, Cush's Quarter tomorrow, 6 o'clock Pacific Standard Time. It's a wrap. Episode 522 in the books. Have a good night, and I'm out.